All right, we be live. Hello, everyone. Can you please let me know in the live chat that you have my audio and that everything is good? Today's program is going to be very important. Today, we're going to be speaking to a scholar and a former diplomat of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and we're going to get into the ideological details behind the political side of Islam, which is going to help you. Today's show, if you actually pay attention, is going to build you a framework for understanding and making sense of a lot of the things that you're saying. We're going to be able to uh, explain the concept of Ummah in Islam and look at it in the modern framework of it and how it's being used for you to be able to make sense of what's happening right now with the spread of Islam in Europe, with regards to what's happening right now in Israel, with regards to what's happening in Iran and the master revolution. All of these are connected, and all of these are going to make a lot more sense to you for why they're happening, and it's going to make you a lot more equipped on how to tackle it and resist it and fight it ideologically. And today, the best person that I could find to explain all of this to you is right now Hossein Alizadeh, who's here with us. Hi, Hossein. Thank you for being here with us.
And thank you for having me, Armin, and thank you for having me for second time. If your audience knows, this is the second session we're going to have, but of course, in English one before it was a couple of days ago that we had it in Farsi channel of your 80s Republic. I'm happy
Yes.
that you are inviting for the second term, and let's go where we can get.
Okay, so before we get into it, can you tell people who you are, your experience as a diplomat with the Islamic Republic of Iran, you as a scholar right now, and the amazing book that you have written that explains all of these concepts. And by the way, guys, the book is available for free, so I will put the link to it in the link to it is already in the description, but I also put the link to it in the live chat as well. But we're going to go through the book today and why it's so important for you guys to understand this today. Like, if you understand these concepts and the history of the political side of Islam and how it relates to all the politics today, if you understand this, you're going to be a lot more equipped than other people in understanding what's happening, and you're going to be a lot more equipped in defending against it. So please explain your background, uh, your scholarship, and your book.
Sure. Now, first of all, as for me, I have to say that I was 13 when the Islamic Revolution struck Iran in 1979. Soon after that, the war erupted in between Iran and Iraq. So I voluntarily participated in war. After that, when I got admission to the university, Tehran University, I've got my bachelor in philosophy, in particular Western philosophy, which prepared for me the ground to get into to know the philosophy or the thoughts, political thoughts in Western hemisphere. And after that, I got a job in the foreign ministry of Iran. Then I turned to be Iranian diplomat under Islamic Republic.
Mhm.
So I was believing in the Islamic Republic. Um, uh, I was believing to Khomeini as the founder of Islamic revolution and the Republic of Iran, Islamic Republic of Iran, until then I continued my study as in master in international relations. Uh, um, Later, by the um, emergence of the Green Movement of Iran back to 2009, when the political system rigged the election, manipulated the election to re-elect Ahmadinejad for his second term.
Well,
I knew that.
we don't want to get into that much detail. Let's skip over to the
Alright, so
point where you basically moved away from. So you were part of the regime, you were a politician in the regime, you were part of the foreign ministry, and at some point you decided to give all that up,
yeah, it
and
was
you turned
exactly,
against the regime. Yeah.
yeah, it was exactly after the Green Movement, when they cracked down people. So a
Yes.
number of the Iranian diplomats stepped down from the career in Italy, in Belgium, in Norway, and in Finland, where I was charge d'affaires of Iran embassy. After that, I totally felt that I am disconnected from the regime and its theoretical, its ideological background. So then I started my PhD in Finland, and the book, which is I'm going to discuss about, is the outcome of my PhD result, my dissertation, which is entitled the Ummah. So what
Mhm.
is the Ummah and things like that? I will get to that whenever you're ready.
Right. So first of all, thank you to Ramo for the super chat. I appreciate the support. So just to be clear, the Ummah, is going to go through the history of the political side of Islam, in for the past, like ever after, um, Ataturk ended the Caliphate, like I think recent history of Islam in the in since World War I, I think, till now, right? And basically using as understanding how the Islamic ideology framed the current understanding of politics in Islam, and then based on that, making sense of the spread of Islam, using the concept of ummah, because I think a lot of people don't understand the political nature of the concept of ummah in Islam, because a lot of people think that the concept of ummah, it just refers to the community of Muslims, right? But it's a lot more complicated and a lot more nuanced and detailed than that. If you understand this concept effectively, in detail, you will be able to make sense of a lot of other things that are happening with Hamas, with Hezbollah, with the Islamic Republic of Iran, with Hezbollah Tahrir, with ISIS, and how the three main sources of power right now in Islamic politics, which is Wahhabism, Muslim Brotherhood, and Khomeinism, or the Vilayat Faqih version of Shia Islam, how they are all connected, how what unites them, what divides them, and what unites them. And this will, do you think it's correct for me to say that whoever understands these concepts in more detail, they will be able to address it a lot better, like they will be more equipped in being able to tackle it? And I think it's, given how big of a threat right now this threat of Islamism is to the world, I think this is essential knowledge for people to have. Would you agree, or do you think that if there's anything that you want to add or correct about what I just said?
Yeah, well, you very properly touched the very importance and cruciality of this book. I mean, this is not a book to put it in the shelf. No, this is the
Mhm.
book you have to read it and think it and study about that, and then to see
Mhm.
that what is the background behind these all movements, Islamic movements in the region, not only in the region of the Middle East, but also around the world, because you can find Muslims and Islamists everywhere in the world, in the States, in Canada, in Britain, in anywhere. And it's really a matter for the worldwide to understand that what is the Islamism or pan-Islamism, and why all are struggling to rebuild the Ummah. So
Mhm.
is it so the question of the book is to answer what is the Ummah and what does it stand for? What is
Mhm.
its implication in today world politics? Because
Mhm.
I mean, normally if you just make a quick search in any dictionary, the notation it gives to you is that the Ummah is means the community or the society of Muslim faithful, Muslim
Mhm.
believers. That's all. But the question is this: isn't it a very neutral definition? It's very neutral definition. Like if I say the community of Baha'is, or if I say community of Christians, of community of Jews, it's neutral. You don't feel
Mhm.
any danger in the this definition. If you say it is a community of Muslim believers, so there are a group of people gathered together, so they share something between themselves. But if I bring for you that behind this theologic definition is a
Mhm.
political definition, a political new concept, a hidden political concept is in this term of Ummah, then you'll touch that why it is too crucial to understand it in the new context I'm going to do. So first, as I've said, as I've told you to you, I've studied international relation in my master and PhD. So I was able. So coming from Iran, from a Shia society, from a Muslim society, from Middle East, then having the experience of working in a political system. I mean, Islamic Republic of Iran for 22 years. And then after that, putting all my thoughts and experience together to understand what this ummah, what does this ummah stand for. Look, Armin, to show you, to touch and to demonstrate the importance and significance of our discussion today and the importance of this book. I think it's shared for you. Yes, is it shared?
Yes, I can see it. Yeah.
It's shared. Okay. So the importance of the book is is in another question. The question is this: we see that Hassan al-Banna, the founder
Bef-
of
Before you get into that, I just want to give because now we're getting into the meat of it. I just want to give or an overview, a big picture of what we're going to be doing. And now you could start because everything starts with Hassan Banna, right? Everything starts with this man. But I just wanted people to understand the journey that we're about to go in, right? So we're going to talk about the origins of modern political Islam. So, which starts with Hassan Banna, right? And then once we explain the origins, we're going to go explain how this eventually came to Iran, like from Egypt to Iran. Like, how did it eventually made it to its way to Iran? How eventually the Islamic Republic in Iran became the main force behind the spread of right today is now the main spread of political Islam around the region and globally. Because the main forces right now behind political Islam, the politics in Islam are political force in Islam are Wahhabism and Muslim Brotherhood and Vilayat Faqih of the Islamic Republic of Iran. These are the three forces. And for people to understand what each one of these are, the Wahhabism's the way Wahhabism expressed itself in taking over the world or starting a caliphate and spreading the Islamic Ummah, people know that by products like ISIS or Al Qaeda. Like that's the result of the spread of Wahhabism. Or when it comes to Muslim Brotherhood, people know mostly Hamas or the Islamism in Turkey or Qatar. These are the what we know like the demonstrations of the force of Muslim Brotherhood today. These are what people remember and know them for. Or when it comes to the third one, which I would argue is now the greatest force when it comes to a global takeover of the Islamic Ummah, because I would say that the Muslim Brotherhood project is now a failed project because the greatest demonstrations of their strength is Hamas. It failed to have any other state anywhere in the world. So they failed. And I would say Wahhabism also failed because their greatest ambition for having a state was eventually was ISIS. But Wahhabism is now failed in Saudi Arabia, and ISIS is also now a failed project. So this third one, which is the remaining one, is the only one that is actually managed to turn into a state and has global ambitions for taking over the world. And we're not exaggerating when it comes to their ambitions in taking over the world, and we will make that very clear. Like you will make that very clear during this show. You will see that. So the third one, which is the Shia Velayat Faqih version of Islam, that's the only project right now that has the most amount of success when it comes to making this dream of bringing back the Islamic Umma and dividing the world into Dar al-Harb and Dar al-Islam, or the two blocks that as you would explain, Western powers against Islamic powers. That's what I would argue is the only successful remaining force. And that's why when we start with the origins of this ideology in Egypt with Sunni Islam, which is Muslim Brotherhood, has its roots in Sunni Islam, but we'll see how that evolves and comes to Iran and emerges ideas from Shia Islam with ideas from Muslim Brotherhood, which has Sunni origins, and then this whole new concept of Velayat Faqih is born out of it from Khomeini, and that leads to the 1979 Islamic Revolution. Would you say that was, I just wanted to give a big picture, would you say that was an accurate description of what we're about to,
you're very properly, very properly, you touched the general idea, but I was going to explain that despite all the diversity we find in all Islamist group, no matter whether Shia or Sunni, or in Shia, whether Shia 12 imams or four imams, Houthis or Shia in Iran or in Yemen, in Iraq, no matter which Sunni you are from, whether Hanafis or Shafis or Malikis or Hanbalis, no matter to which political Islamist group you belong, all wish to recreate, to rebuild the Ummah. So the scratching question for me during all these 6 years I was conducting my PhD was that, what is this Ummah that everybody is looking for? From Hassan al-Banna, from Sayyid Qutb. Let me show you with picture. So here you see all these figures. First one, the first one is Jamaluddin Asadabadi, and the second one is Muhammad Abdu. The third one is Rashid Reza. The fourth one is Al-Kawakibi. And here, then these figures are, there were theoreticians, but these are political activists. This is Hassan al-Banna, the founder of the Muslim Brotherhood, and this is Sayyid Qutb, who has played a very significant role in bringing Islam as ideology. Look, some people look to Islam as a religion, but this man has brought it as an ideology of Islam. And the third one is Abu Ala Maududi from India, and this fourth one is An-Nabhani from Palestine, who has created a very broad party, Islamist party around the world named Hizb ut-Tahrir. I'm pretty sure that you know that this Hizb ut-Tahrir party has different branches in the Canada, United States, Britain, France, Australia, and many countries. So to me, the question was this, Armin: why all these different and diverse figures, Islamist groups and people and individuals, starting from Jamaluddin Asadabadi and ending to Khomeini and Khamenei. Why all are looking to recreate the Ummah?
Yes,
I don't know
and
whether
you argue,
I could.
and you argue that this is the most unifying force. Like it's not salat, it's not tawheed, it's not zakat, it's not the hajj. None of these are a unifying force in Islam. Even the concept of the oneness of God is not a unifying force against in Muslims. You're saying that this concept of ummah, by the way, because I usually argue that anti-Semitism is a unifying force among Muslims, but that also plays into this concept of ummah. That's actually a subcategory of the concept of ummah, and we will explain why anti-Israeli positions, anti-Western positions, all of that will start making sense if we look at everything through this lens of understanding the ummah. So, is it correct for you? Based on my understanding of your book, is that you think that the concept of ummah is what unites Muslims from Reformist Muslim, Sunni Muslims, Shia Muslims, whatever, all of them. Okay, so how so?
Yeah, the entire Muslim community, as I've said, the Muslim community by itself is a neutral, doesn't have any political implication. You are a group of the Muslims gathered together. So this is the Ummah, but not. If I give you another definition, which I will go to that just quickly right now, then you will touch that. You understand that, oh, by that theological definition, they are using a political implication of the Ummah in the international context. And what is that? I have brought a very new definition. In fact, the contribution of my book is in two words only. In two words only. In the contribution of book is to say that the Ummah in political Islam means Muslim bloc. So, what does
Muslim
Muslim bloc mean?
block,
Muslim
block,
bloc.
yes. Block, yes.
Bloc. So, what is the bloc? So, if you remember, the term bloc has entered into international literature during the Cold War, Army. You know, during the Cold War, the world was divided in two, a Western bloc and an Eastern bloc, the Washington and Moscow. So when we say bloc, I mean, it is exactly, when I'm saying Muslim bloc, it is exactly in the context of the international terminology.
Mm-hmm.
So if the word in a binary division, in a dichotomy division, in a dual division during the bipolar system was divided in two, East and West, Eastern Bloc and Western Bloc. So the question is this.
Mm-hmm.
When they consider the Ummah as one Muslim bloc, so in fact, they are referring to the exactly same terminology. So that was a conflict between Eastern Communist Bloc and Western Liberal Bloc during the Cold War. But now they are saying that we are one entity, one unity. We are one, no matter where you reside, no matter where you live, no matter which race you are coming from, no matter which language you speak, no matter which religion of Islam you have. As a Muslim, we are one entity, one single unified entity, as we have been before. So look here. This is important. This is very crucial. They argue, they claim that previously, I mean, centuries ago, Muslims had upper hand. Muslim had their own civilization dominating around the world
Mhm.
by by noting that when they say we have one single unity, they are referring to during the Caliphate. Which
Mhm.
Caliphate? The last Caliphate of Ottomans. Let me show you in pictures. Let
Before
me show you.
before you do that, can every time you say something, I want to summarize it to the audience what I understood you said, so that we all are on the same page, and then you could confirm if I got it right or not, and then we will move to the next phase, right? So the way I interpret everything you
Oh,
just said is that, so we have something. This goes back into the core of Islam, even though we're looking at it from a modern framework. These are basically translation or interpretations of what has been is in Islam from the origin, from the beginning. So Islamically, if the way that we look at the world is that we divide the world into Dar al Harb and Dar al Islam. So the Islamic politics, it basically, it looks at the world, and whatever it's Islamic, it calls that, Islam, the House of Islam, or whatever it's not Islamic, it calls that the House of War, right? So anywhere, the reason that we calls it war, because basically it's a place that you are at war. Anywhere that is not Islamic, you are at war with. And that's how they divide the world into Islamic and non Islamic. That's the core. Before
no,
we even had this. Yep, go on. Yep. Is that
no, no,
correct?
no, no.
Okay.
Let me correct you. First of all, you got me true. You heard me right. That yes, in a binary division, as I've said, like as the Cold War and the bipolar system, they now are theorizing that the world again is divided in two. In one
Yes,
side
I'm
is the
getting.
adopt, yeah, yeah.
I,
In one side is the adopt or the House of Islam, and in the other side they are not. Clearly pointing out to the Darul Harb. They say Darul Kufr. I mean,
right.
infidel house, the house of infidelity, the house
Yeah.
of or the adopt of infidelity. So when they say infidelity, it means that whoever and whatever is not Islamic. As for it is
Right.
not Islamic, so we are different. Here is an important point. This is called the process of othering.
Otherization.
Other comes from other. So we have. It means that we, as a Muslim, have our ummatic identity. We are one single ummah, no matter where you reside, what language you speak, which branches of Islam, which denominations of Islam do you have, or do you pray or you do not pray, do you practice Islam or do not practice Islam whatsoever. As a Muslim, we are one unity. That and
Right.
against us there is the adab of Darul Kufr. What is important here? What is important here to touch it is that when they say we have this unity, and they are referring to some, let I call it the delusion of a what they call as the Islamic Golden Age.
Right.
Islamic Golden. So they believe that okay, they believe that in a period of time, I mean, for centuries, from 19th to 16th centuries, almost, it was the golden age of Islam, in which the sciences, military advantages, military or literature or culture, all was flourishing in around the Muslim country. when we had this. Look at
Well,
my at that
before I
picture.
wanted to finish that, I wanted to finish my impression of what you said, my interpretation of what you said before you get into that. So let me finish that part because I want to make sure we're all on the same page with the audience, right? So that the division of the world into Darul Kof, the house of infidels, and the house of Islam, that predates modern politics. That's ancient, right? But what you just said earlier is the translation of that um, Islamic understanding of the world into the modern concept. Like we had the Cold War, and the Cold War divided
Let's
the
call it
world.
let's call it reconstruction. Let's call it
Yes,
reconstruction of the
transfer
old and ancient one to the new
it,
version one
to
today.
yes, the new version, which the Muslims look at the modern politics and saw that we have a Western bloc and we have the Soviet Union as its own bloc, the communists versus the capitalists, the communists versus the liberals, right? And they basically their understanding was that Islamic idea translated into this modern concept would mean that Darul Islam or the House of Islam would be in the Islamic bloc, the Islamic Ummah, which predates modern politics. The translation of that into modern politics would be an Islamic bloc. So just like we had the Soviet Union as a superpower versus Western, like United States and other her allies as a superpower, their vision of the current world today is to be again make the world into two superpowers. One of them is the Western superpowers, and which are the enemy of the Islamic superpower. They want Islam. They want to go back to how it was before, where we had everyone against Islam, and you're fighting. You as a superpower is fighting against everybody who's not Islamic. They want to be the Soviet Union of the Cold War that we had before. They want to be the other side and eventually win and take over the world, right? So I'm hearing some echo right now. I don't know what happened. I hope it goes away. I think it's gone away. Okay, so with that framework, that what we had Islam before, it was an Islamic empire, so they were imperialist. But the modern version of that, if you look at what the Soviet Union was doing, or the British Empire, or the new modern version of that, is that this is colonialism. So we had Islamic imperialism before, and now the modern version of that would be what they want to do, an Islamic colonialist project. Would you say that that would be a fair description of what they're trying to achieve, or what their ambitions and goals
Yes,
are? Yeah. Okay. All right.
yes,
So let's
fair
get
enough.
into the.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay.
Yeah, fair
All right.
enough.
Great.
Actually, as I have said, in I mean, the concept of bloc, no matter during Cold War or today, it is a process of the othering. So you make an enemy for yourself. You create you have your identity based on Islam today. Before, based on the communism. Today, you have your singular unity based on
Mhm.
the Ummatic identity, and we are we are who we are, and they are other. So this is the process of othering. So you find, you in fact, you are defining yourself with another enemy. So if you are not that enemy, you are us. You see,
Right.
if you do not belong to that block, so you belong to us. So
Right.
here is a very, I mean,
So
here is a danger of the Omatic identity. Or I mean, the definition I am touching as a Ummah to mean, or to denote as a Muslim bloc, is not neutral. Like, as if you say it is just a gathering of the community of society of the Muslim faithful. No, it is not. It is
mm,
it denotes that if we want to be united, then we need to have to create our state. Here is the importance of the point, because
mhm.
without having the state, how you can how you can create a unity between members of a society, uh,
Right. So
in the political context. In the political context always refers to the power, to might, So
Mhm.
might is right. As far
Mhm.
as you are not able to create your state, your Islamic state, don't forget that Daesh, the
ISIS,
terrorist group of
ISIS.
Daesh, when they create
The people
ISIS,
don't know
yes,
Daesh.
when they
ISIS. People know ISIS. Yeah.
ISIS, yes, ISIS or ISIL, and when they created their state, they called it what? Islamic
Islamic
State.
State.
Remember,
State.
Islamic State. So Islamic State is in fact a hardware for a software. And what is that software? The software is a theoretical and ideological belief in unifying the all Muslim around the world. How many Muslims? 1.6 billion. 1.6 billion with with the diversity of quite huge territory. Let me show you
But
territory.
can I
So
address
look
some of the
at this.
comments? Can I address some of before you show that? Can I address some of the comments quickly? I'm going to go through some of the comments that are mod. Thank you so much for the mod for starting some of the comments because a lot of people are confused in the live chat. I just want to clarify some of them. Somebody is asking, how does the Islamic Republic of Iran stand when it comes to the Muslim Brotherhood? Guys, this question will be answered in so much detail about how the Muslim Brotherhood and Iran come in. Yeah, we
Yes,
will
later.
get to this in so much detail, so don't worry about that. Somebody else is asking, you are discussing Ummah in a way. I understood the definition of Caliphate. I'm a bit confused. So the Ummah is the Islamic body with its people and all the things, the values, and it's a community, okay, but a political community. The Caliphate is the Sunni version of what the state is supposed to be for this Ummah. And the Caliphate is not what the Shias agree with. So my understanding, if you could correct me if I'm wrong about this, the way I would word it is that for the Ummah, the head of the Ummah for the Shias are the imamate, the head of the Ummah for the Sunnis are the Caliphate. So you have the Ummah, and something needs to rule over this. And for Sunnis, what needs to rule over the Ummah is the Caliphate, and for the Shias, it's the Imamate. The concept of the Ummah is the same thing, but they disagree on what's supposed to be ruling over it. Is that a fair summary? Just like before I go to the next
Uh,
part.
let
Yeah.
me let me clarify it a bit more. What I'm saying that there is in the considering Ummah as a block, you need a software and you need a hardware. The
Mhm.
hardware is to create Islamic State. The software is the idea of unifying all Muslim around the world.
Mhm.
Here comes the question that whether two questions we have to address two questions whether that is possible at all,
Mhm.
whether that is possible at all to unify all the Muslim under one umbrella. This is one question. The second question is if we were able to unify all the Muslim under one umbrella, the question is who is the leader for this quite
Yes.
huge, tremendous body? $1.6 billion. You are touching the second question.
Right.
Let's go first
Yeah, but
by one by one.
last comment I'm gonna highlight, and then I'm gonna let you do your thing. But just this last comment, so because somebody is getting way ahead of themselves, right? Somebody in the comments saying totally disagree with the guest. Sunnis don't think Shias to be part of the Ummah. So this Iran regime ambition of global Ummah is very unrealistic. Won't happen. Well, that's what we're going to talk about. This is exactly the
Yes,
problem that because the government in Iran, the Islamic Republic in Iran, their ambition is for them to be the head of this Islamic Ummah. Their problem is that they're Shia and most of Islamic world is Sunni. And I share your view that seems an impossible task. It's not, but it's not something that they're not trying. We're not agreeing with how possible this is. We're just discussing what they're trying to do. And by the way, it might seem a little bit less unrealistic when we discuss their methodology, and this is the main barrier for the Islamic Republic of Iran, the fact that they're Shia and the most of the Islamic world is Sunni is their main barrier to become the leader of the Islamic world. And guess what? This is why the issue of Israel and Palestine becomes so important for the mullahs in Iran. We will discuss how they're using the Palestinian cause and the suffering of Palestinians is being used by the Islamic Republic of Iran is exactly to overcome this barrier that you're highlighting here. So we will get to it. Just be patient. But anyways, sorry for constantly interrupting you. Please go ahead.
So fortunately or unfortunately, questions come before my explanation. Yeah. I can complete my discussion and argument. Then, if I will go step by step, I think all these questions would be answered. So far, I'll try to explain that the whole book is about giving a new denotation for the concept of the Ummah. What is that? Muslim bloc, 2 words, only 2 words, that's all. So what is the bloc? I've said that the bloc means that during like the Cold War bipolar system, Eastern bloc and Western bloc. So in this concept in this dichotomy, there is a fight between the two blocks. Now comes the question whether at all it is possible to recreate the Ummah under one umbrella. We have to address this question. My clear answer to that is negative. Absolutely, this is not possible. Why not possible, Army? So the question is why we cannot? Because in the concept of the one block, they are against any border and boundaries. Look, when you say one single block, that means the territorial integrity. Here is Iran, here is Iraq, here is Jordan, here is Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Palestine, Lebanon, Northern. All these borders should be removed. What does that mean? That means that the international world we are living in today is based on Westphalia Agreement. What is the Westphalia Agreement? It was an agreement that after too many years of war in Europe in 1648, the world community back then in 1648 became to understand that we can have our territory based on nation-state borders. So since then, almost for 500 years, the world we live today is based on borders which are created between the countries, between the states, based on what? Based on nation-state of Westphalia. All right? So 500 years. When today you are claiming that we want to create one single Ummah, that means that you wanted to remove all these borders at least between 55 states of Muslim states. There are 55 Muslim states in the ICC, Islamic Cooperation Conference, Islamic Cooperation Conference, ICC. There are 55 countries that they believe in their borders. Egypt is a secular country. Tunisia is a secular country. Libya is a secular country. And many countries. Only you can find one single Iran, under the Islamic Republic, which is believing that it is not secular. All the other secular. So all they stick to the borders. So first of all, sorry for 10 seconds. The impossibility of the creating of Ummah goes to the idea of you have to fight Westphalia. Number one. So the creation of the one single ummah is impossible. Then comes the second question that, okay, if in case that it was created, then who is the leader? Here is your second question. Could be the second question? Your one of the audience has given a very good definition, good explanation. Look, 1.6 billion Muslims around the world. 10% of them are Shia. Only 10%. Majority of them in Iran, part of them in Iraq, Lebanon, and Bahrain. And most of the other countries
Syria.
are a majority of Sunnis. How you can claim that I want to be the leader, as you hear in Iran, they call Khamenei the leader of the Ummah, right? Armin, they call it
Yes.
the leader of Muslim Ummah. Okay, if you are the leader of the Muslim Ummah, you're Shia. How, as a Shia, 10%, you wanna rule a society or a community of 90% of who are belonging to the Sunni denomination? So this is another impossibility, another fact for impossibility of the creating of Muslim Ummah. I hope that I could answer the question
Yep.
you raised before
Yes.
from one of
Yes.
your audience.
I wanted to get to the actually get start with Hassan Banna, start getting into the history of it after I say this. But I just want to explain to people what just happened. So we have the concept of a nation state, which is a modern concept. It was invented, after during a little bit during World War I. It was implemented, and it was created. The idea of it comes from the age of enlightenment thinkers, and eventually slowly it evolved, and it was implemented mostly after World War I, and eventually with the United Nations, and after World War II, and all of that. But this is a Western concept now, and a framework that now the entire world it has accepted as a framework that every you can see every country is submitting to that framework. And this is something that if you have an Islamic mindset, you cannot accept, uh, because it's being you are the way that you're defining Egypt, the way that you're defining Bangladesh, the way that you're defining Saudi Arabia comes from this world liberal order that is completely un-Islamic, that doesn't come from the Quran, that doesn't come from God, doesn't come from Muhammad, and now you're governing your country and your politics based on this Western liberal framework. So the goal is eventually to change this world liberal order with a world Islamic order. Like, why should we play this game based on the rules that you have set, Western powers have set for the world? This is an actual insult. Like, ever since the Caliphate was removed from the Islamic world by Ataturk, this has been a period of humiliation for Sunni Islam, because Sunni Islam was used to having a caliphate that the Islamic world was under, and now it's gone, and now all these Islamic countries are basically playing within the framework that has been invented by Western countries. So when you say Egypt or these other countries are secular, I don't think the concept of the secular that you're talking about is not what we talk about usually on this channel, because we're not talking secular in the sense that religion is not involved in politics. Because religion, even in Egypt or in all these other countries, is involved in politics. When we're talking about a different concept. When we say secular here, we're talking about the framework, like the fact that these countries have parliaments, the fact that they have a president or a prime minister. These concepts, the fact that they have elections. Like, we have all of these frameworks, and these are not Islamic frameworks. These are not the politics of these countries are completely based on foreign inventions. Like, this is why even in Iran, where we still have fake elections and fake parliaments, this is something that Khamenei is against. Like, we have in Iran, it's called an Islamic Republic. And ever since the revolution, the republic part is something that they're trying to completely remove eventually and just make it fully Islamic, because republic again is a Western. The republic part is Western. So this is what you're talking about secular, because Egypt is not trying to, as much as Islam we have in Egypt or these other countries, they're not trying to destroy the concept of a nation state. Like Saudi Arabia is not trying to destroy the concept of a nation state. Like Egypt and Saudi Arabia, they might be Islamic countries, but they want to defend their borders. They want to defend the concept of a nation state. They want to play within this framework that has been set by this Western world liberal order. They want to play within that framework. However, the Islamic Republic of Iran, they actually want to destroy all countries, including Iran. This is why a lot of Iranians try to explain that the government in Iran is anti-Iranian. But the reason why they're anti-Iran, because they're anti every nation state, including the nation state that they're in. The Islamic Revolution, a lot of people have this misunderstanding that the Islamic Revolution of 1979 in Iran was an Iranian revolution. It wasn't an Iranian revolution. It was an anti-Iranian revolution, because they don't believe in nationalism. They don't believe in the nation state. They believe in the Islamic Umma, and Iran is being used as a tool to destroy nation states, including Iran, and basically bring this Islamic Ummah with the Shia imamate as its rule. Like the Sunnis are trying to have a caliphate, but the mullahs in Iran are trying to have them rule over this Islamic Ummah that they bring into the world. So the reason why we're saying that there's a global plot against nation states, this is not an exaggeration. This is actually it's in their books. They explain this. This is why Khomeini was anti-nationalist. This is why Khomeini didn't like to be pro-Iran. This is why Khomeini, when he was coming back from his exile to Iran, when they asked him if he's excited, what are his feelings to go back to Iran, he said, I feel nothing. He said, I have no feeling. Like he hated nationalism. He hated people celebrating Iran, because for him, this was not about Iran. He always said that people who say Iran, Iran, they are the enemies of Islam, because for him, it was Islam that mattered, not Iran. And this is why IRGC, which is the most important military wing in Iran right now, it doesn't even have Iran mentioned in what it's supposed to defend. They are trying to export their revolution. The army, the IRGC in Iran, or Sepah Pastaran, their mission is to defend Islam and spread the Islamic revolution outside of Iranian borders, because they don't even recognize their own borders. All of these borders are Western concept that they're against. Anyways, we're going to go more into that detail, but again, did everything I said, was that a good explanation or understanding of what you said, or was there anything that you need to correct?
Yeah, you correctly. I mean, you correctly touched it, but I want to add to that something else. Look, when I talked about the impossibility of creation or recreation or reconstruction of Ummah, I said the idea of one single entity named Ummah is impossible, because it's against the Westphalia nation-state borders. This is number one. Number two, we have to bring into consideration the definition, the difference between two concepts. You have to differentiate between these two concepts. One can call himself a Muslim. Look, one can call himself a Muslim country, but not Islamic country. What is the difference between these two? In Saudi Arabia, they call it, we are a Muslim country. What does that mean? It means that in a specific territorial land, a group of Muslims are living together. So it is a land belonging to Muslims. So this is a Muslim country. It is not Christian country. It's not Jewish country. It is not Buddhist country. But they never call themselves as an Islamic country. Here's the difference, because whenever you say the Islamic country, it means that you have to bring the implication of the Sharia as a law, as a rule in ruling the system. For example, if you go to Egypt, you'll see that even during the Ramadan, the fasting month of Ramadan, I've seen it by my own eyes. Even whoever was fasting during the day on the time of breaking his fasting, which is called Maghrib, the sunset. I've seen that they are Muslims. They prayed, they practice their fasting, but they go to a belly dance ceremony. To belly dance, a belly dance lady is dancing there, or even sometimes they are drinking alcohol after fasting Ramadan. You
Alcohol.
see, this means that to them, uh, um, if you ask them whether you are Muslim, yes, he says, I'm not Muslim, I'm not Jewish, I'm not Christian, I'm not Buddhist, I'm not Baha'i, I'm Muslim. I'm a Muslim, but if you ask them whether this country is ruling is running
Shari.
governed by Islamic Sharia, they say no, because according to Islamic Sharia, you don't have
Right.
right to drink alcohol in the public. You don't have a lady doesn't have right
So,
to dance
yeah, so we get
belly
that. I
dance
want to I want to make sure
and
we get
manage.
into the start actually talking about the history pretty soon. So yeah, I get the point from the difference between a Muslim country and Islamic country, and a true Islamic country is expansionist, is trying to become is trying to establish the Ummah. It would be actually against its own nation state. So I think now let's go to where this all started. Like, let's go to Hassan Banna and explain, like, bring his history, and then go from that to Qutb and his,
Yeah.
especially his travel to United States, because it was Qutb that made these ideas popular and spread all over the world. And I think it was ignited by his travel to America and his experience there, and how much he hated United States and his experience in the United States. So all of that story would be very interesting to touch on. So let's go from there. By the way, I'm gonna go. You keep talking. I'm gonna turn off my mic and camera for just 1 minute. But you start. Let's go through the history right now. I'll be back in just a few seconds. Okay.
All right. Okay. Um, okay. It is a very, very much a crucial question you raised. What all this story started from? How this story of Islamism or pan-Islamism or Islamic movements originated from? So we have to review the history. So we discussed that after the Prophet of Islam, Muslim society divided in two into the denominations. The first, the majority of were Sunnis, believing in the Caliphate, and a minority believing in imamate. So, what is the difference between Caliphate and imamate? I will touch it later on when you raise the question. Please don't forget to ask me the question about the difference between Caliphate and imamate. However, what is important, the Shia didn't have any country ruling under the imamate. All these 14 centuries, Shia couldn't be able to establish its Shia-run Islamic Shia state. But Sunnis were able. Sunnis were able. There were Umayyad Caliphate. There were Abbasid Caliphate. There were Fatimid Caliphate in Egypt, and last one was the Ottoman Caliphate. You know all this. So this is the map of the Ottoman Caliphate in 1566. You see how big and how it was in its greatest extent in the 16th century. But what happened to these very huge territories? What happened? Here is the beginning of the First World War, 1914. The Ottoman Caliphate of Ottoman Caliphate has lost a lot of the territories in Europe and in the northern part of the Africa. So what is left for the Ottomans, Ottoman Turks, was this part. I mean, Turkey today, and area which we know under the name of the Iraq, Jordan, Syria, Palestine, Saudi Arabia, and so on and so forth. But what happened after the First World War, Army? This is what happened. The that big, huge territories of the Ottoman Caliphate turned to this very small part, which is half of Iran today, some 80, yeah, half of the Iran. I don't remember its kilometer, how big it. So, but not only they lost the territory, but also they lost the ruling system of Islam. What was the ruling system of Islam back then? It was the Caliphate system. Remember that for Sunnis, soon after the death of Muhammad, they had one person as the leader of the Muslims. So what they feel today is like that, to consider, to see themselves, to view themselves as a body without a head. I repeat again, to consider yourself as a body without the head. What is that head? Is the caliphate. In Turkey today, first they lost a very tremendous and huge territories, and second, in 1924, in 1924, Ataturk dismantled the caliphate system in New Turkey and in the Islamic world, all over of Islamic world. So from since almost, let's say 100 years ago. So we are in 2024. In 1924, he mantled, exactly 100 years ago, he dismantled the caliphate system. So what happened, what perception happened for Muslims? As I've said, they consider themselves as a body with no head. So what was the reaction? Here is the reaction. The reaction is that from this moment, from this moment, these people, these 8 people, these individuals, thinkers, Muslim thinkers and Muslim figures, they started to think about how to rebuild the Muslim caliphate. Again, we are talking about the Sunni Islam, not Shia Islam. Beginning from Jamaluddin Asadabadi and his students, Rashid Reza and Abdo and Kawakibi, and lasting to this very important person. Who is he? He is Hassan al-Banna. Hassan al-Banna. What did he do to
Before
create?
be-
To
Hmm. Before we get to
so let me
Banna, okay, you go ahead.
let me finish it here. Yeah, to recreate a Muslim Ummah under new caliphate, he brought the idea of bringing the caliphate to the life again. So he in 1928, just 4 years after
Mhm.
dismantling of the Caliphate Institute, Hassan al-Banna has formed and shape the party of Muslim Brotherhood. You have heard a lot about the Muslim Brotherhood, but he was assassinated. He was very soon assassinated. After him, this man, the second one, Sayyid Qutb, became the toppest, the toppest ever, figure in the Islamic world, no matter Shia or Sunni, who gave a very theoretical, written theoretical framework for Islam, not to be a piety, but to be a polity. Again, to Islam not to be a piety and praying and practicing your religious duty. No, to be a politics, to go and to look for gaining a power, political power. And as you know, he was assassinated by he was hanged by Jamaluddin Asadabadi. Of course, there are two other people like this one, Abu Ala Maududi and Nabhani. Also, they this the third one, Abu Ala Maududi. He was he before Muslim Brotherhood. He created a party. His party's name was Caliphate Movement. Caliphate Movement, but it didn't last too much for just 5 years. It was gone. But after Caliphate Movement, this person, Muslim Brotherhood founder, Hassan al-Banna came, and after Hassan al-Banna and Muslim Brotherhood, this fourth person, this is Al-Nabhani, Muhammad Taqi al-Nabhani, the founder of Islamic Hizb ut-Tahrir. So altogether, here you can, I summarized it by bringing the logo. This first one left is the Caliphate Movement. The second one is Muslim Brotherhood, whose logo. The third one is Hizb ut-Tahrir's logo. And the fourth one is the new one that you remember, just was formed in 2014. Who is this? What is this? This is the logo of Daesh or ISIS or ISIL. This is the logo of the Caliphate, formed under the al-Baghdadi, and as you remember, he is assassinated by the United States. So I stop here to question to me.
No, I just want to make it simplified for people so they could remember what's happening. So before this movement, the movement that we're talking about that just started, because the logos you're saying, some of them are Muslim Brotherhood, some of them the Muslim Brotherhood ideology that was spread, eventually a lot of other things came out of it that are not Muslim Brotherhood themselves, like for example ISIS or the Islamic Republic of Iran. Even though they're not Muslim Brotherhood, the Muslim Brotherhood movement led to those ideology. Like it evolved into other things that are not Muslim Brotherhood themselves, and we will show the connection, especially of the the Islamic Republic of Iran's ideology. Even though that's Shia, Muslim Brotherhood is Sunni, we will connect it to Muslim Brotherhood and show how that happened, how they were influenced by it. But before Muslim Brotherhood started, and the main two figure, I think people should, because there's so many names here, I just want people to just focus on Hassan Banna and Sayyid Qutb. Those are the main two people that Hassan Banna with regarding the person who started it, and Sayyid Qutb with the name who popularized it, the person that his book became basically kind of like gospel. His books was read, even people who are not Sunni, even people who don't believe in Muslim Brotherhood. If you are into Islamic thought, it's the Sayyid Qutb books that everybody ended up reading. It was Sayyid Qutb's book that managed to spread this ideology all over the Islamic world. This man is the man who popularized all of this, right? And everyone from Khomeini to Khamenei to Nawab Safavi or all of these people read his books or somehow influenced by it. But what led to, correct me if I'm wrong here, what led to the Muslim Brotherhood eventually becoming popular was the three humiliations, the three insults to the Islamic world, and a desperate attempt to overcome these humiliations, right? And the first one was the abolishment of the Caliphate. Well, actually, it's not the first one, but I'm just going to mention them: the abolishment of the Caliphate, the Balfour Declaration, and the Sykes-Picot Agreement, right? Basically, these are the three would you agree that these are the three humiliations that the Muslim Brotherhood was a response to because it shows how pathetic and weak the Islamic world was, and how far away they were from their from their peak, and how much the West everything is now based on the order of the Western power. The abolishment of the Caliphate was basically showing that the Islamic order is no more. The Balfour Declaration was an insult because they saw the beginning of Israel as a Western conspiracy to come into the heart of the Islamic world and create a country by the Western powers so that the Islamic Ummah will never be united again. Like, come in right in the middle of it to build a country so that the Western powers could have their own presence in the middle of what was the Islamic world, as an excuse for to make sure, first of all, they're present there, and also to make sure that by putting the Jews there, that this whole thing will, even though it's a small country, it's basically it's like a wound in the middle of the Islamic world, just so that it constantly keeps infecting this whole Ummah project and avoids it from ever coming together again. And that's why everyone that is trying to bring back the Ummah together again is always thinks that one of the main steps in this project is to destroy Israel. So that was the Balfour Declaration and the Sykes-Picot Agreement, which basically defines the borders in what used to be the Islamic powers based on the agreements of Western powers. So these are Western powers coming out and coming here and deciding, here's your country, this is your border, which was a source of huge humiliation. Would you agree that these are the three main sources of humiliations that these people experience and want to overcome? Would you, which led to eventually the Muslim Brotherhood being a response to it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that is totally true. As you precisely described it as the humiliation, that is true. It is a feeling of decline. You
Mhm.
know, if you study the last 100 years, there is a literature of losing something, as I've said, losing your head. So a literature of decline. They believe that soon after we lost the Islamic Caliphate, so we lost everything. So we are not anymore superior. So we are not anymore advanced in science, in military, in having our territorial under ours. So we became a colonized country. Remember that a majority of the Muslim country became under the colonialized system, except Iran and Afghanistan and one more other. All the that huge territories that I've shown you, that how big is it? They became under the colonizing system. So this is a very bad feeling that you are not respected anymore. You are not a respected role. You are not as respected. You don't have any respectful authority. Yes, after the losing or abolition of the caliphate in New Turkey of Ataturk in 1924, they started to think what happens. Three things. First of all, they they understood that a very um, um, notorious notorious agreement took shape under the name of Sykes-Picot. This is in 1916, first Sykes-Picot, because it's still in the middle of the first war. First war started in 1914, and this agreement between Britain and France reached to divide and to split the left territory of the Ottomans in the Middle East between themselves, between Britain and between France. So this first happened in 1916. In 1918, the war is over, but the Ottoman is a defeated country. Is the defeated country. So what happened after that? Uh, in 1970, I forgot to say, in 1917, Balfour Declaration took shape by the British government of promising to Jewish community to create a Jewish land, a Jewish country, a Jewish state for the Jewish people around the world. So this is called Balfour Declaration. So first of all, they considered that by Sykes-Picot Agreement, they divided us. They divided our territory. By believing in Balfour Declaration, they consider as a notorious agreement, notorious declaration, which caused to create a cancer, as they prescribe, as a
Israel.
cancer in the heart of the Muslim territory, because all this Middle East area were Muslim countries. There was no Jewish country. So they consider Balfour Declaration as a notorious declaration which implanted a cancer in the heart of the
cancer being, for people who
Muslim
know the
territory.
cancer, for people who don't know the Balfour, the cancer being Israel. So planting Israel as a cancer in the
Israel, yeah.
Islamic world.
The
Yes.
later on ended to the creation of Israel in 1948. So in 1916, 1917, and by the end of the war, the two things happened. First, the map of there is no Ottoman Caliphate in the world map, and there is no ruling of the system of Islamic. So all this created a very bad feeling that we have lost everything, and that everything is that we have lost our head. Here is the point. So we have to try to bring it back. So after this, after 1928, in which the Muslim Brotherhood was created by Hassan al-Banna, after that, everything started. Everything. The Muslim Brotherhood is the role model for every Islamic movement talk ship during the last 100 years, no matter in Muslim country, in Shia country, or in Sunni country. So here comes the question that how it affected Iran as a Shia country, because Shia doesn't believe to the Caliphate. So the question is this. If Muslim Brotherhood wants to recreate the Islamic Ummah under the Caliphate, so it's why it affected Iran, which is a Shia country. It is a very good question. Shall I go to this point to address this question, or you have question?
Please do.
Okay. Yeah. So the question, because there was a question raised by somebody about how it affected on Iran. Look, to my understanding, Islam as a Shia, Iran as a Shia country with a majority of Shia, 98% of Iranian population are Muslim. So only 2% are non-Muslim. And from this 98%, almost 95% are Shia. So Sunnis are a minority. But during all these long years, Shia never created a Shia running state. Yes, we have Safavid dynasty, but Safavid dynasty never has been claiming that we are going to implement, we are going to apply Sharia in the system. No, even in the history you read that Shah Abbas has was drinking alcohol, or had something that against the Islamic Sharia. So they were not believing in applying the Sharia in the system during the Safavid. So it was not. They were Shia, but they were not claiming that we are ruling this country based on the fiqh of Sharia, of Shia. Now, how this so how the idea of Ummah came to Iran? I believe, and I claim, I strongly believe that all these terms are exported to Iran, are exported to Iran. What do I mean by exported? Because if you go, I mean, some 50 or some 100 years back, never, no thinkers, no philosophers, no writer, no author in Iran has been talking about jihad, has been talking about, no one was talking about Ummah, no one was talking about the Sharia, no one. Well, Muslim people were Shia, when people was practicing Islam, was practicing faith, practicing salat, praying or fasting, but never believing in Ummah or things. All are exported into Iran. But you ask me how this has happened. This has happened when, if I show you this picture, look into this. Wait a second. As I've said, I've said that this mere person, I mean, say the quote, is a very progenitor of pan-Islamism. He is a very um, um, figure father in popularizing Islam. To know that how influential his role was, just I have collected some of his books. He has written too many books. He wrote too many books that I have collected, a bunch of them. You know, his books is translated even into some 50 languages. I mean, this is very, I mean, huge figure if you understand that an author write a book and his book is translated 50 languages from the world, including Persian language. So then your question is that who translated his book from Arabic to the Persian language? Here's the answer. Here is the answer that here's the answer that Ali Khamenei translated his book to Farsi language. I don't have the picture of Ali Khamenei. You know him. Ali Khamenei, when was between his 20s and 30s, has translated 3 books of the Sayyid Qutb. This is Sayyid Qutb. This picture tells us a lot. And this picture is the beginning of the connection between Sunnis and Shia. In left side, you see Sayyid Qutb, as I discussed about, and I told that how important this man was. You see, this is his books. Look, and among his books, a lot of them is translated into Farsi. But this is the moment of connection between a Shia cleric and a Sunni cleric.
That's
this man is called Mujtaba Nawwab Safavi. I call it Nawwab, so it is easier for you to remember. Nawwab was a young Shia clergyman who has visited Cairo. This picture is taken in Cairo. You see, he went to Cairo to visit Sayyid Qutb. And after this meeting, he is the man, Nawwab, he is the man who exported, or better say imported a lot of ideas of Sayyid Qutb political Islam into Iran. Here is the moment. So what happened here? What happened? Sayyid Qutb.
Can you go back?
This is important.
Can you go back to that picture? Can you go back to this picture?
This picture.
Would it be, yeah, this picture? Okay, so Would it be fair, this picture that you're showing, to say that this meeting is what destroyed Iran? This one meeting here. This is the bridge between the Muslim Brotherhood and now what we understand
Yes.
as the Islamic Republic. This is how the Muslim Brotherhood came to Iran and created the concept of Vilayat al-Faqih and eventually basically started an Islamic takeover of Iran. This one meeting took down a country. Is that correct?
Absolutely accurate. Absolutely accurate. You are touching this point that this is the connection or the bridge between Sunni political Islam and Shia political Islam. As I've said, Iran before this moment was a secular country under the Shah of Iran. And during the Shah of Iran, people were practicing Shia, but they were not practicing political Islam. So what happened after this army? What happened is that Sayyid Qutb was believing in recreation of Islamic State, as I've said before. Okay, to create Islamic State, you need to apply power, to apply jihad, to use force, to use army, to go to kill the anti-Islamic figures. What happened in Egypt is that based on Sayyid Qutb's ideology, some of the very important governmental figures were assassinated. The most important person was Jamal Abdel Nasser, the head of the Egypt, the president at that time. So even based on his thought and on his teachings, uh, they started to kill Jamal Abdel Nasser. You remember, after Jamal Abdel Nasser, two other people also were assassinated, and lastly, Anwar Sadat. You remember this? Those who assassinated Anwar Sadat, they were belonging. I mean, ideologically, they were belonging to the school of the Qutb. Because of that, it is called Qutbism. I repeat again, the school of Qutbism, the school that the Qutb brought the theology of Islam to be an ideology of Islam, based on the ideology of Islam, to unite all Muslims around the world and to create the Muslim Ummah and to create the Muslim Caliphate. So
Mhm.
when one of his teachings was jihad or jihadism. You have heard a lot about the jihadism. This man on right is a Shia cleric, Nawab Safavi. After this meeting, he got all the teachings of Sayyid Qutb
Cool.
and brought the idea into Iran and saying that we have to assassinate non good Muslims. So look into this map. One, two, three, eight, seven people. Who are they? All are assassinated. All of them are assassinated by Nawab Safavi. By the way, I forgot to say that Nawab Safavi has created a group, a terrorist group named in Persian, in Farsi, it is named the Fadayan Islam. If I can translate it into English, it means the devotees devoted to Islam,
Mhm.
who are devoted to Islam, like this.
Mhm.
If I can translate it. So let me name these people. On the right side, look how important people they were. On the
So
right side,
just so people understand, I just want to capture what we're saying here, so people can have a proper framing. So we have Sunni Muslim Brotherhood represented by Qutb, which is such the key figure that spread the Muslim Brotherhood ideology to the world, and then you have Nawab Safavi, who is Shia, Iranian Shia, who met with Sayyid Qutb, and this is the bridge between Muslim Brotherhood and the Islamic eventually what led to Islamic Republic. So
right,
Nawab Safavi there on the
right,
right, he's bringing all that ideology to Iran, but he's not just bringing the books and the ideology, he's also bringing in the assassination. In the same way that Muslim Brotherhood was doing assassinations in Egypt and where they are, now Nawab Safavi also is bringing in Iran and assassinating the people who are against their Islamic project. And these are the pictures that you're showing are the Iranians who Nawab Safavi's group, Fadaiyun Islam, managed to assassinate. Yep. So let's go to the pictures and look
exactly. That is right. Yeah. Totally true. Totally true. Fair,
during Shah's time.
fair explanation. Yeah. Sorry.
I just want people to, because people don't know, some people don't know the history of Iran. This is all during the Pahlavi dynasty, before Iran was an Islamic
Pahlavi dynasty, during Muhammad Reza Shah. Yeah, during Muhammad, before the Islamic Revolution. I forgot to say something. Another important, crucial point I have to explain. Look, this is this person Qutb, as I've said, he created Qutbism. So a school of Qutb, a school of the thoughts of Qutb is called Qutbism. He first, of course, he was anti-Israel. He was anti-Israel, but before to be anti-Israel, he was anti-government.
Anti what? Sorry, what are you saying? Anti what? He was anti what?
Anti-Israel.
Israel. Israeli, anti-Israeli.
Israel.
Yes, okay.
Anti-Israel. But before to be against Israel, he became. This is very, really something. Laughable. Before he became anti Jamal Abdel Nasser. Who was Jamal Abdel Nasser? Abdel Nasser was the head of the Egypt and was a Muslim and was practicing Islam, praying, fasting, going to the Hajj ceremony. But he ordered to kill, to assassinate Jamal Abdel Nasser. But here was a question: how a Muslim can order to assassinate another Muslim? This is a question. This is an important. This is an important question, isn't it, Armin? Isn't it an important question to see why a Muslim can order to kill another Muslim? Here comes another of his teachings. As I've said, he brought a lot of teachings, based on political Islam. One of his very important teaching is that he brought the idea of excommunication. In Arabic, they call it takfir. So what does excommunication means? The excommunication is a method to say that whoever doesn't believe to political Islam and is not practicing Islam as a polity is an infidel, is a kafir. He's an infidel, although he's practicing Islam, although he is going for fasting and praying, going to Hajj, although he is a good person and help poor people. No, he is infidel. Why he is infidel? Because he is not believing in political Islam. This is one of his very, of course, notorious and horrific thoughts he brought to the Muslim world. So he brought the idea of excommunication. What is the outcome what is the outcome of excommunication, takfir? What is the outcome? It is that he opened the way to kill whoever you doesn't like. You just can give an etiquette to whoever is not standing beside you. Then you go to kill him, to assassinate him. So what did happen after bringing the ideology of excommunication, takfir, to consider some person as infidel? So in Muslim brothers started to assassinate top figures governmental figure in Egypt. As I have said, and you remember, starting from Jamal Abdel Nasser, which was not successful assassination, ending to the Anwar Sadat, Muhammad Anwar Sadat. You remember that he was, I mean, he was assassinated some 45 years ago. But as I've said, this connection between these two clerks, between Sunni and Shia one, what happened? Nawab Safavi, right side, the person right side, he brought the idea of excommunication in Iran, and second, brought the idea of assassination as a method. What happened? In Iran, he said that all these people are not Muslim, although they were Muslims, although
Well,
they
not
were
the last one.
Muslims.
Not the last one. To be fair to that last
What do
one.
you mean? Sorry, I didn't get you. What do you mean?
The last one is not a Muslim. He's our guy.
I know. Yeah, I'll come to that point. Yeah,
Kasravi was
Ahmad Kasravi. Ahmad
he's
Kasravi.
our hero. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Let me correct myself. Yeah, you're totally right. No, I mean, so look how important these people were. The first one on left, up left, is Abdul Hussein Hajir. This one, Abdul Hussein. Who was he? Prime Minister. Prime Minister. The second one, Ali Razmara. Who was he? A prime minister again. The third one, Hossein Allah. Hossein Allah. Who was he? Prime minister again. The fourth one, the fourth one, Ali Mansour. Hassan Ali Mansour. Hassan Ali Mansour. Who was he? A prime minister again. This fifth one, Hossein Fatemi. Who was he? Foreign minister. This sixth one, Ahmad Zangene. Who was he? Minister of Culture. And the last one, and the very most influential figure, I think I advise Armin, you make a session about Ahmad Kasravi, if you have not already had any session about the Ahmad Kasravi, to bring his thoughts and his influential role in Iran and in the region. So in this last one is Ahmad Kasravi, who was a secular reformist author. Ahmad Kasravi was not a governmental figure. No, he was an author. But remember that he was a clerk first. But then he turned against the ideology of Shia in Iran. And he wrote too many books against the ideology of Shia in Iran. And finally, he was assassinated by this person, by Nawab Safavi. So look, exactly.
So let me can we highlight that last guy, because a lot of people don't understand this. This last guy is considered a hero among ex-Muslims, many ex-Muslims in Iran, because he wasn't just a secular activist. He was an ex-Muslim. He was a mullah that turned not just ex-Muslim, but extremely aggressively anti-Islam, which was very brave of him to be like that. I mean, he was assassinated for it, but his writings were aggressively, like, he didn't hold any punches. He was aggressively anti-Islamic, even though he was a mullah himself. And he inspired a whole wave of anti-Islamic content and activism ever since he came. Like, he is one of Iran's heroes, and he is such a shame that he was killed in the way he did. But his books were extremely influential, and he guided many people that eventually came after him. Is that fair to say?
Yes, exactly. And yeah, totally right, totally fair. And once again, I repeat, I wonder whether you have heard me right. I advise that you
Yes,
make a session about in your
yes,
channel, whether in Persian or in English one, to talk about this very important figure in Iran. I mean, if I mean, if Sayyid Qutb is on the top, or better to say, if he is the toppest Islamist figure, Sayyid Ahmad Kasravi is the toppest secular and atheist. Of course, he was not atheist. No, 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 he was not atheist. But he is
he
the
was ex-Muslim.
toppest anti-Islam.
Yeah,
Sorry,
he was ex-Muslim though. He was ex-Muslim, secular and
the
ex-Muslim.
toppest. Yeah,
Mm.
secular and ex-Muslim. Yes. So I very much advise that if you have time for you allocate a session of your channel to study and to review the thoughts of the Ahmad Kasrafi. He is killed. I mean, some 70 years ago, but his
Mhm.
thoughts still alive. Am I right,
Yes, yes, very
Army?
much.
You believe?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. The reason
Yeah,
why,
quite very much.
I mean, you're the expert, but the reason why you're asking me, I think, is because we consider him our guy, like we ex-Muslim activists.
Yes, you're
I
right.
think
Yeah.
we consider him our hero.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yes, your hero. Yes,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah, he was a pioneer. Let's describe it in this way. He was a pioneer to criticize Islam or Shia, and don't forget that he was. I mean, he had a meeting. Armin, by the way, he had a meeting with this Nawab Safavi. Not before assassinating Ahmad Kasravi, Nawab went to a let's say scientific discussion with Ahmad Kasravi to convince him that you're wrong, man. You're not true about Islam. What you are saying is
Yeah.
totally wrong. He went to a discussion, to a debate with Ahmad Kasravi, but he failed because he couldn't convince Ahmad Kasravi. Ahmad Kasravi was a mullah, was a clerk,
Mhm.
he was a clergyman.
Yeah,
He
he
knew all
used to
about
be.
the
Yes,
Quran, Hadith, all the literature of Islam. So
right.
he was not. Nawab was not able to convince him. After that, they decided to assassinate him. However, I
So
mean, these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, these six other people were governmental figure. I mean, whether at the level of the prime minister or at the level of the minister, these two ones were ministers, and these fourth figures were prime minister. Very top people but they were governmental figures. Ahmad Kasravi was not a governmental figure. He was an author. He was a thinker. He was a philosopher
right.
person, and was assassinated by
So
say by
so
by
can I
by
just highlight?
Fadai.
Can I just highlight what you said? So Kasravi, so Nawab Safavi tried to convince Kasravi to come back to Islam, that he's wrong about Islam, but he failed because Kasravi used to be a mullah himself, and he knew Islam inside out, and he knew everything. He knew his education, his understanding was of Islam was a lot more detailed. So he was like he didn't win in that debate. I do want to address some of the comments in the live chat before we move on, right? And also highlight what you mentioned about takfiring, because I think a lot of people need to understand what happened here, right? So the concept of takfiring exists in Islam. It does exist in Islam, and according to Sunni Muslims, there's a right way to do it and there's a wrong way to do it. The wrong way to do it, it was done by Khawarij. That's why they call them takfiris. And the wrong way is anybody who sins is considered to be by Khawarij is considered to be a non-Muslim, and Sunni Muslims say that's wrong. Even if you sin, you're still a Muslim. You're just a Muslim who's sinning. For example, if you are a Muslim who's drinking alcohol, or if a Muslim who's having sex before marriage, that doesn't take you out of the fold of Islam. That just makes you um, a Muslim who's sinning, who has to, if you don't repent, you have to be punished for it, right? However, Sunni Muslims do agree that you can takfir people, but not because they're sinning, but because they're denying. If somebody denies, there are many ways for you to be okay for you. So the takfir means that to announce that somebody is not a Muslim anymore. So if I'm a Muslim and another Muslim takfirs me, it means that that Muslim is announcing that I am no longer Muslim. I have done something that makes me no longer a Muslim. Right. So this the proper way, the correct way to takfir somebody is not because of their sinning, but it would be because they're denying that Allah exists, they're denying that Muhammad is the prophet of Allah, they're denying the day of judgment, some key articles of faith. And when it comes to sin, the act of sinning itself does not make you a non-Muslim. If you deny that it's a sin. So let's say I'm a Muslim and I'm drinking alcohol. You're another Muslim and you come tell me, Armin, why are you drinking alcohol? Don't you know that that's a sin? If I respond, yeah, I know it's a sin. I'm so weak. I should stop drinking. Yes, you're right. It's a sin. Okay. Even though, and if I still continue drinking after that, I'm still a Muslim because I didn't deny that it's a sin. Right. But if you come to me and say, Armin, stop drinking alcohol. Don't you know it's a sin? In that case, if I say, nope, it's not a sin, I can drink alcohol. In Islam, drinking alcohol is not a sin. Now, because I denied something that is mandatory in Islam, a command by Allah, right? Because I denied it, now I can be takfired. It can be announced that I have left the fold of Islam. So this is part of Islamic thought. Before Muslim Brotherhood, before Qutb or before Banna, before all these guys. So Qutb took that idea of takfiring and he said, listen, Islam is political by its very nature. It's part of the DNA of Islam. So all the Muslims who are denying this, who are not, who are saying that Islam is just going to the mosque, praying, fasting, and then going home and living your life as if you're not supposed to, uh, make the whole world Islamic, as if you're not supposed to make the whole world submit to Islam, to fight this political, ideological, military battle. If any Muslim denies that, based on the concept that I just told you, you can takfir them, right? So if you are, I don't know, Abdul Nasser, and you think that it's Islamic to have countries in the framework of the framework that the Western power have introduced, you think that is not contradictory to Islamic law and Islamic teachings, then you could be takfired. You're no longer a Muslim. And this is why Sayyid Qutb's ideology was very dangerous, because he considered so many Muslims to be non-Muslims, and his war was not just against the non-Islamic world, but his first war was against the Islamic world, because he didn't even consider them to be Islamic, because they denied the political nature of Islam. Would that be fair to say?
To some extent, yes, but let me put it in my own words. You are totally right that the excommunicate, to making excommunicate or making somebody consider somebody as infidel, started with saying that if a person commits a sin but doesn't deny it, he is still a Muslim. He is a Muslim, but he is committing a sin. If he deny that drinking alcohol, for example, is haram, is forbidden in Islam, if he denies, then he is an infidel. Okay, but in Qutb's thought, it is much worse, Armin. It is much, much, much worse. Why? Because for Qutb, it was not a matter whether you drink alcohol or not. It was not matter whether you deny drinking of alcohol is haram in Islam or not. For him, what the red line was that whether you deny the power of Islam, you deny Islam as a ruling system which unite us as all Muslim. If you pass this red line, then you are infidel. For him, it was not important whether you drink alcohol or not, whether you deny it or not. For him, denying the power of Islam, the authority of Islam was red line. So this is much worse. Why? Because how many Muslims, for example, go to drink alcohol? But how many Muslim doesn't believe Islam as an authority, as a political authority? Millions, if not billions. You see, so his thoughts, it's much more dangerous than the definition you have given for takfir, for excommunication. So he brought a political definition for takfir, for excommunication. What you said, what you truly explained, was not a political field. It was not a political definition. Yeah, I mean, practicing Islam or not practicing Islam. For him, practicing Islam is practicing power, practicing believing in political power. Was it clear to you?
Yes, it makes complete sense. And it needs to be a political unity based on Islam. Because remember, you said that they wanted to assassinate, Abdul Nasser. But the problem is that some people might be confused here, because Abdul Nasser was also trying to unite all these Arab countries together, right? But again, this is the struggle between pan-Arabism and pan-Islamism. So the Qutb side represents, or the Muslim Brotherhood, basically their ideology represents bringing everybody together under the umbrella of Islam. Abdul Nasser, which is, again, he was considered to be secular, even though he was a Muslim, even though he prayed, even though he fasted. Okay, but his politics was secular, and his method of unity, of bringing all these countries together, was based on an Arab identity, not based on a Islamic identity. So based on ethnicity rather than ideology. And this is unacceptable by people like Qutb. So the war between Abdul Nasser and Sayyid Qutb, it represents the war between pan-Arabism and pan-Islamism. But yeah, go on.
Let me drop you here for a second. In fact, if we want to summarize Qutb's teachings, in fact, being a secular is the red line. Being a secular and not believing in the polity, in the political power of Islam and authority of Islam is the biggest sin. Drinking, or sexual relation with a woman, or not going to the Hajj pilgrimage, these are not the sin. They are a small sin, but the biggest ever, never acceptable sin is to believe in secular Islam. You see, then imagine that how million people are considered infidel.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
How millions of people, Muslim, are considered infidel.
So can I address some of the comments very quickly? So this, I said all of this to also be able to address this comment by Amit Chai, saying, how do they fail? How do these Muslims? Can I? What?
Do you allow me to finish it? I think because I'm almost at the end of the my presentation, then I'll come to take the question. Okay. So up to here, I've shown that I've shown that this person, Nawab Sababi, after connection with Sayyid Qutb, brought all his thoughts to Iran. First, the idea of excommunication, the second, jihadism, and third, assassination. So here is is another important topic, another very important, very crucial topic. So we understood that this is Nawab Safavi again, the same person. Uh, uh, we understood that he played a very important role. But the question is that, okay, he wanted to import Qutbism into Iran, but he was assassinated. He was hanged by Shah, the Shah of Iran. Very soon after those assassination, I showed you he was hanged, and so how what happened? How again after his death, the Quds idea came to Iran. Here is the all mysterious and all
Mhm.
miserable story of Iran today starts from here. This man had influenced on a very important person who is playing the most authorities in Iran. He was speaking in a mosque in Mashhad some some 60 years ago. When he was addressing a group of the uh, young people in that session, a very young teenager, a very young teenager boy was sitting and listening to Nawab Safavi. Nawab Safavi was saying the secular system of Shah is not acceptable for us. Shah is an infidel. We have to assassinate Shah and his ministers and his prime ministers, and we have to bring the power of Islam into Iran. Who was that teenager man who was listening to this horrible figure?
Mm.
The answer is Armin Ali Khamenei,
Mm.
Iran's today
Correct.
supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. Ali Khamenei himself, in his autobiography, said his story. He said, I was 14 years old when, for the first time, I met Nawab Safavi in Mashhad in a mosque, and he was, I mean, he was,
Inspired.
um, uh, he was telling us about the political Islam and saying that the Shah of Iran is infidel. We have to assassinate them. He says, Ali Khamenei, in his autobiography, he says that I I became, I mean, impressed ever, ever by this man. Look
Well, he
at
used a
this.
much more stronger. He used a word that is a lot stronger than impress. He acted like he fell in love with him. Like he was like I was taken
Of
away
course,
by him. Like I was. What's the word that he used in his autobiography? But he used a very strong word, like as if he was infatuated. Like I think by this man. And yeah, let's zoom into the
yeah.
picture. Yeah,
You look.
is that the right
If
word?
I can show you, I mean, please help me to translate this sentence. You see, something is written here. It's something is written here.
Yes.
This is a script by Ali Khamenei in memorial of Nawab Safavi, written in the name of God.
Right.
Um, a salute to the pioneer of jihad and resistance in our time, Sayyid Ali
Yeah.
Khamenei. Again, I
So
translate it
now,
again as much as I, in the name of God, salute to the pioneer of jihad and resistance in our time, now Sayyid Ali Khamenei. So in this picture, he shows that how respectful he was to this terrorist figure. And by the way, if you remember, this is another picture which says a lot. This is a picture stamp. It's stamped is published in Iran in memorial of Sayyid Qutb. Remember, Sayyid Qutb, both people, these two people were hanged in their country. This one, Sayyid Qutb, by Jamal Abdul Nasser in Egypt, and this one, Nawab Safavi in Iran by Shah of Iran. So the future, I mean, سرنوشت چی میشه؟ حال ذهنم خسته شده.
Destiny, the
Destiny.
yeah.
Destiny. The destiny of both ended to similar position. Both were hanged, but never Sayyid Qutb was praised in his country by his government. Never.
Mhm.
He's considered as terrorist, and no street, no book, even his book is not allowed to be published. But this man is very much praised in Iran today after the Islamic Revolution. We have a street in his name in Iran, and he has his party Fadayan Islam, devoters to Islam. His party is quite active nowadays. And lastly, which is very important, the Islamic Republic in Iran has published stamp in memorial and
Stamps.
martyr. Look here on the memory of the Sayyid Qutb's martyrdom. You look
Mhm.
in 1964. 1964. Let me
This is
zoom in. A second, please.
Yeah.
So here, 1984, sorry, 1984, they published this stamp in memorial of the memory of the Sayyid Qutb's martyrdom. So what this year referred to, 1948, it is 5 years after the revolution's victory in Iran, because the revolution became the victory of this Islamic revolution was in 1979, right? Armin, 1979.
yes.
So here it is,
5 years.
1984. 5 years later. Remember, in 1984, Ali Khamenei is the president of Iran. Remember that. He is the president of Iran. And because he was very much influenced by Sayyid Mujtaba Nawab al-Safavi, where he ordered to publish this stamp in Qutb's memorial. So, I mean, shortly and in nutshell, I want to stop here then. In nutshell, Sayyid Qutb played an influential role in Nawab Safavi's thought, and Nawab Safavi has played an influential role in Ali Khamenei's thought. Both of them are hanged, but Ali Khamenei is alive. And he is the toppest person in the government of Iran today. And you know how is he ruling Islam. So I put the full stop here, and then I'll come back to you with whatever question you have, I'll take.
Okay, so I want to now take all of this and also tell people how this relates to the spread of Islam in Europe, how this relates to Israel, how this relates to the Mahsa revolution, and how this all brings us together. And I'm glad that you ended for now on that note, because Khamenei is not just the highest figure in Iran right now that is endorsing this Muslim Brotherhood ideology, but it's just the biggest power, represents the biggest power in the entire world right now that is supporting this ideology, I would say, right? But before we get to, I'm going to highlight some of the questions in the live chat, but before we get to that, the last two pictures that you show basically finishes the bridge that we were building. So the first picture that you're showing here shows how Muslim Brotherhood ideology came to Iran through Sayyid Qutb to Nawab Safavi, and then it came to Iran. But the two other pictures that you show, the picture that Khamenei signed, that shows how, like, it demonstrates how Khamenei and people like him were influenced by Nawab Safavi. And then the stamp also shows how the current government in Iran is influenced, like Kanza recognizes that the influence of Sayyid Qutb and the fact that the entire he was a pioneer of all of this movement, right? Even though it shows to people how, let me waiting for the echo to go away. Yep, all right. Even though Sayyid Qutb was Sunni, the Islamic Republic of Iran still considers him as the pioneer of all of this movement, and it shows how these things are connected, right? So I'm gonna first highlight the super chat that we got. Thank you so much to Gasian American saying we need to sell this as an Islamic imperialism, Sharia imperialism, or Sharia, well, not nationalism, but yeah, imperialism. I completely agree with. And it's like Islamic imperialism, I would say, right? But let me actually highlight this question because some of these questions help us clarify a few things. Somebody, Amichai, was saying at the beginning of the stream, um, he or she was asking that how do these countries feel humiliated or cornered, or how does the Muslim people with the Muslim Brotherhood ideology feel cornered when they have 55 countries, right? The point is that they are not these are not Islamic countries in their mind. These are un-Islamic. I mean, I think Hossein Alizadeh explained here to us that how they considered all of these countries to be secular, how they considered these countries to be working within the framework of nation state, how they didn't endorse political Islam. You consider these countries to be Islamic countries. They don't consider, like people with the Muslim Brotherhood ideology or the Khomeinism ideology or the Wahhabism ideology, they consider almost none of these countries to be Islamic, and they don't even believe in countries in general. Like they don't, as long as you're a country, you're not being Islamic, because you have to break out of this whole shell of a nation state to be able to be even Islamic, right? So just wanted to mention that. And also I mean, that's, I think, yeah, so Islam is an Arab. So here, I wanted to highlight this concept, this one as well, that Islam, somebody saying Islam is an Arab imperial colonialism. No, it's not an Arab imperial colonialism, okay? Again, I want people to separate pan-Arabism and pan-Islamism, separate these from each other in your mind, because these are two forces that are against each other. These are not the forces that are working with each other or the same thing. Pan-Arabism is the enemy of pan-Islamism and vice versa. So it's not it's an Islamic colonialism. It's not Arab colonialism, right? And somebody was asking, but political Islam is in the Quran. Yeah, that's the whole point of. So when we're talking, that's the whole point of Sayyid Qutb and all of these other people, is that this is true Islam. Like what they're teaching is according to the Quran. And I mean, Sayyid Qutb wrote many different books about tafsir, like tafsirs of the Quran. Am I correct on this? Like, do you confirm this? Like, there a lot of the commentary, which influenced a lot of, yes. Yeah, so basically making all of his points, and again, that influenced a lot of people's viewing on the Quran. But again, now I want to start bringing this to how all of this is relevant to us today. But before I do that, actually, we forgot to mention one story, which is, I think, a lot of our American audience might find interesting, that Sayyid Qutb, one of the reasons behind all of the spark was his travel to United States and him being hard, because he was educated in the United States. He went to university in the United States. Yes. And he was horrified by what he saw. Yeah.
Let me clarify it. You are totally right. I mean, he was very much educated, and second of all, he had a lot of works and books, as I've said. But before he became the figure father for Islamism, he was a scholar. I mean, a very normal scholar, and he visited the United States for 2 years. Then back home, back Egypt, from that 2 years travel to United States, he wrote a book. If I translate it into English, his book is in Arabic, "America التي رأيتها," which I can translate it as the United States that I have visited,
Mm-hmm.
the states that I've visited. In that book, he is projecting all negative aspects of the American society, like sexual freedom, like secularism. I mean, drinking pops. I don't know, whatever he was not happy with. So he
Mm-hmm.
brought he projects, I mean, a very satanic society under the United States. And he never mentions that the United States is very progressive in rocket science, for example, or how or thousands of the university and think tank institutes are working in this society as well. He's not touching this, very bright aspects, perspective of the U.S. Society. He's just touching that part which is very dark for him. For example, sexual freedom. So yeah, this is the book he wrote. You can find it. It is available in English. The states that I have visited. It is the name of his
Right.
book.
Okay.
Before
And
before to before to become the philosopher and top thinker of political Islam. Before.
right. And there's, I don't know if it's within this book or another book, a famous story that he writes. Let me know which book was this in. A famous story that he mentions was when he visited a church in the United States,
Yeah,
and he
in the
saw
same book. The same book.
it was in the same book. And one of his most disgusting experiences that he says that he has was that a church, which is supposed to be a house of God, a house of religion, a house of religious piety and stuff.
Praying.
Yeah, praying. They had a dance in the church, and he was witnessing that dance, and boys and girls' bodies were touching, like they were holding each other while dancing, and he could not believe how the moral depravity, the degeneracy that he was witnessing, where people like just holding, boys and girls holding each other and dancing, and their bodies touching. And he could be like, how low do you have to go in this country where you not only do you have this level of sexual degeneracy, but you also allow it in your your house of worship. And that was a key like a part of his book that a lot of people find interesting, about how much he was disgusted by that experience, and how much he wanted to highlight that. And this is um this goes in line with like people right now that we're saying, it's not other ideologies, like, I don't know, Chinese or Russian ideologies, that when they are anti-Western, like this travel to United States, what made Sayyid Qutb to put the division of the world, the good versus evil, to make the West the evil, like the good versus evil, Islam versus kufr, Islam versus infidel, was always there in Islam from the beginning. But the anti-Western narrative that Sayyid Qutb had made it so that he defined the other side, the enemy of Islam side, the house of war, the house of kufr, to be the Western world, because the immorality or the degeneracy shows that Islam stands for everything that is good and holy and moral, and these Westerners, with their power, they're bringing something to the world that is disgusting, dark, and evil. In the same way, for example, Putin talks about the division of the world, and he sees like the liberal countries to be unnatural and spreading depravity around the world, and that there needs to be a force against that. So Putin, for example, today thinks that the balance of the world has been um, uh, it was more natural for you to have two superpowers. You had the West as superpower, and you had the Soviet Union as superpower. And now that the Soviet Union has fallen, the world is unnatural, and that's why the West is also becoming unnatural, and the family values and all of these things are being challenged because there is no balancing force to control it. In the same way, they discuss that, for example, so many, like in China or Russia, people feel about the Western world. Sayyid Qutb experienced that when he visited the United States, and this is the beginning of a lot of anti-Western attitude that basically split all over Islamic thought, because anti-Western, like anti-America, anti-Israel, Europe, this is not part of the DNA of Islam. Anti a non-Islamic world is, but all of this anti-Western narratives now that you see that is all over the Islamic literature comes from Sayyid Qutb and potentially sparked by this travel that he had to United States. Would you think that would be a fair description of what
And
actually
that's,
happened?
yeah, absolutely right. Yes.
Okay, fantastic. I'm glad that you're here to check all of these things with you. This is so good. All right, so let me actually get to the point. Something that we missed here, I think, was a symbol of the unity between how this Islamic ideology in Iran merged with leftist or communist ideology, and then that made it so successful. And I think the key person to highlight here to demonstrate that would be Ali Shariati. Would do you think that you want to touch on him and this key figure in, because a lot of people
I
think that the Islamic Revolution would not happen without him, without Ali Shariati and his books and his ideology. Do you want to explain how he
sure.
comes into
Yeah.
this whole? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Sure. Sure. Yeah. Good that you have brought up the I mean, the point about the Ali Shariati. I mean, Ali Shariati was an academician, but a Muslim academician. He was not secular.
Hmm.
And he was also, I mean, an author. He wrote too many books. One of the books he wrote is this one, Armin.
Hmm.
This is in Persian, of course. It's named Ummah and Imamate. You'll remember we talked about the Ummah, what the Ummah means, and about the Imamate. As I have clarified the difference between Shia minority, Shia denomination and Sunni denomination. Of course, I mean political Shia, political Sunni, is that Sunni denomination believe in Caliphate, but Shia denomination believe in the Imamate. So,
Hmm.
so the difference is so you'll ask me that what is the difference between two? Very briefly, after the death of the Prophet of Islam, his followers divided in two. Some believe that whoever is going to replace the Prophet and have his authority over the Muslims can be elected through voting, so through consulting, so through voting. So they believe that Abu Bakr became the first caliph. So, and caliph means a person who replaced the other one, vicegerent,
Hmm.
or we can call vicegerent. So, based on the Sunni beliefs, a caliph who can replace the prophet can be elected through voting. But in Shia Islam, they said the leader of the Muslim Ummah can be only appointed by God, by divine Almighty. This is the difference. And because of that, they say that the first Imam in Shia, Imam Ali, is appointed by God and then his sons after coming after him. So this is the difference caused to create two denominations in Islam, Shia and Sunni. You hear a lot about these two. But as I have said, here is a very significant point. I have to touch it, and I very much insist to listen up to me what I am touching about, what I'm talking about. Yes, Shia believes in the leadership of Imam, who must be appointed by God. But the question is that why Shia never formed a state? Because the Shia believe that We are at the time that none of our imam is available. None of our imam is accessible. All we Shia believe in 12 imam, and all of them are infallible, ma'soom. They do not commit any sin, so he is selected and elected by God. So because none of our imam is available, so it is not our duty to create a state, to create a country, to create a government. Until the Khomeini came and changed this paradigm, until the Khomeini changed all this paradigm. He said that to create an Islamic state, we don't need to wait an infallible imam to come and create it for us. We don't need to wait for an infallible imam to come. We can create a Muslim Shia state. Here, he changed all the paradigm of the Shia. It means that after 1400 years of Shia believing that the creation of Islamic state based on Shia belief is not our duty, he changed this paradigm based on what is called vilayat faqih, if like guardianship of
The jurist.
how to translate it into
The jurist.
jurist, the guardianship of jurist. So he said that whoever is a jurist, top jurist of Islam, he was referring to himself. Don't forget, he was pointing. I mean, cleverly was pointing to himself. Whoever is the highest jurist of Islam, he has the authority to create a state. So because of that, then he went to a revolution in Iran, and by 1979 he established Islamic establishment of Iran, which is known today as the Islamic Republic. So this is the difference between Shia and Sunni, that they believe in Caliph, and the Caliph is not necessarily an infallible. Shia believe an infallible imam, and as he is absent, we don't have duty to create the state until the Khomeini came and changed the paradigm.
All right, so I'm gonna try to explain from my perspective everything that you just said, and you can confirm whether or not it's true. And I see I am mentioning a question there, and I will address that as well. Right. So Sunni Muslims believe in the four caliphs or caliphs. Okay, Caliphate or Caliphate. There's so many different pronunciations of this. Okay,
Caliph,
so they
Caliph.
Okay, so they have four caliphs: Abu Bakr, Omar, Osman, and Ali. And they didn't believe these people to be infallible, but they were the rightly guided ones. After when Muhammad died, they believed that these are the four people that were supposed to rule the Islamic world, right? Shia Muslims don't believe in that. Shia Muslims believe in 12 imams. Ali being the first one, and the last imam being the Mahdi, the hidden imam that is gone, that is in hiding, that will come back and save the world, right? So that's what Shia Muslims believe in, right? So four caliphs, 12 imams, but Shias believe that these 12 imams are infallible and they're holy. Like Sunnis don't believe that the caliphs were holy. They were just rightly guided, but they were not holy. But Shias believe that these 12 imams were holy, infallible people and they also believe that the only way for you to have Islamic ruling an Islamic government is under an infallible, either under the Prophet Muhammad,
or
under one of these 12 infallible
whoever is elected by a divine Almighty God, no matter whether he's a prophet or he is an imam. All are infallible based on the Shia teachings.
Right. And I understand we have other 12er, other Shia versions of Shia Islam, but because the 12er Shia Islam right now, we're focusing on that one, right? That's the main one that we're...
Yes, the majority.
Okay. So, and even when we had other Shia states starting before, right? Like so Aiden, for example, is asking that, what are you guys talking about? We have the Fatimites, that they had the state and we had the Safavites. Well, the interesting thing is that they, at the beginning when they started, the founders of these states of the every acted like they are the Mahdi, they are the hidden Mahdi, because under Shia Islam, for you to have an Islamic state, you have to be one of these 12 imams. So you could see that they actually tried to use that excuse at the beginning. Eventually, they became less and less Sharia focused and became more secular. But at the beginning, when they were trying to sell, because they're Shia and they were trying to rule Islam, like have an Islamic support for the rule, they pretended like they are the Mahdi to be in line with Shia Islamic teaching, right? But but when it comes to this Islamic state that we're Shia Islamic state that we're talking, which is Khomeini started, so that idea doesn't sell anymore for somebody to come and say, I am the Mahdi. Well, now let's start an Islamic, because there's certain specific signs that demonstrate that you are a Mahdi that it's really hard to demonstrate as a person. So that's a fail, like that's not going to work anymore. But what Khomeini did, this is what Khomeini did. Khomeini tried to merge this political Islam. I mean, Islam is political, but this excuse the modern concept of political Islam from Muslim Brotherhood with Shia Islam. And the problem is like, well, how could we do that? Shia Muslims are supposed to not rule, like Shia mullahs are not supposed to rule over people until the Mahdi comes back, until the 12 Imam comes back. So Khomeinism, or what Vilayat Faqih, what we call Vilayat Faqih version of 12 Shia Islam, Khomeini did the trick. He took the concept of Vilayat Faqih, which was an older concept, which was not what he made it out to be. He changed the meaning of it to act like the mullah or the jurist or the people who are experts in fiqh, expert in Islamic jurisprudence. They are supposed to hold the Mahdi's government for him in his absence. So technically, imagine how this works. Shia Islam teaches you that mullahs or religious authority should not rule until the Mahdi comes back, right? So Khomeini says this is Mahdi's government, right? We don't have to wait for, like, he can rule in absence through experts, through Islamic experts. We are his proxies. So the argument is that the Mahdi, which is the 12 Imam, Iran right now is the state that is in Iran right now is his state, and he's ruling through Khomeini and now through Khamenei by proxy. That is what we call Vilayat Faqih. Would that be a fair description of? What do you think that would be a fair description?
Yeah, almost right. In general, Khomeini came and changed that paradigm of not non-infallible, infallible, non-infallible also can run a society as in an Islamic state. But of course, he never said that he is Mahdi, but he was believing that he is representing the hidden Imam Mahdi. And because of that, he has created a kind of holiness for his government. I mean, he's not saying that I am like a normal governments around the world. No, I am representing the hidden holy Imam, infallible Imam, who is elected by God. So not directly, but somehow I am representing his governance in Iran and should go through all over the world.
Right. So now let's bring it back to Ali Shariati and his book and how he started the revolution, but his ideology was eventually crushed even though the revolution happened. He didn't see the revolution, but when the revolution happened, his ideology was put aside, right? So Ali, the book that you're showing, right, is the imamate and Ummah, right? These are two different concepts. One of them comes from Sunni Muslim Brotherhood and the other one comes from Shia Islam. And this is the merging of these two, right? Because a lot of Iranians are not really familiar, like use the concept of Ummat. Shia religious Iranians are very familiar with the Imamat concept, because this is a part of it, the DNA of Islam, of Shia Islam. But the Ummat one, this is being imported
Imported.
from Muslim Brotherhood to Iran. So these are, when you say imamat on ummat, Shia Muslims like, I know imamat. What the hell is this ummah thing, right? Like, and the reason why the ummah thing is a little bit foreign to them is because the history of Shia Islam was, it was them mostly not being part of this global Islamic ummah. They were the outsiders. The Sunnis were this global Islamic Ummah. The Shias were the outsiders. And that's why the Ummah, the concept of Ummah, resonates with Sunnis a lot more than it resonates with Shias. But now we're in Iran, before the Islamic Revolution, we're talking about an environment where Muslim Brotherhood literature is being very influential in the mindset of a lot of these religious people, and is having a lot of huge impact on both the academic religious, leftist religious academics, and also the mullah community, the people who are in charge of the mosque or in charge of the religious ceremonies and stuff. This is the environment where Ali Shariati comes in and writes his book. And even though he doesn't agree with a lot of the things that the Muslim Brotherhood is teaching, he's writing in that environment where the concept of an global Islamic Ummah is on everyone's mind. And when he writes Imamat and Ummah, that book is also very influential because he ties these two things together. So Muslim Brotherhood has Ummah and the Caliphate, and Ali Shariati writes this, and instead of the Ummah and the Caliphate, he writes the Ummah and the Imamat. So the Imamat refers to the Imams that the Shias believe in, rather than the Caliphs that the Sunnis believe in, and merges these two concepts with each other. And this is basically the foundation of the ideology that eventually led to the Islamic Revolution. Would you say that Ali Shariati's books and his ideology was so fundamental for the Islamic Revolution of 1979 to happen? Would you agree with that?
Well, first of all, I have to confess that you are more able than me to clarify the ideas that I'm trying to clarify for people. So I appreciate that your ability to clarify things that I have spent some 6 years to put it down.
Thank you. Well, thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, Armin.
Thank you.
Actually, thank you. Actually, yes, something. I mean, the thing is that why Ali Shariati was able to influence in young people back to some 50, 60 years ago. The answer is that on that time, we are talking about the Shah's regime, Pahlavi's dynasty. Iran was a neighbor to the Soviet Union. And you know better than me that the ideology of proletariat and communism has spread all over the world, particularly in even some in Muslim countries. For example, in Egypt. For example, in Iraq. Also, a branch of the communism came to Iran, known as Tudeh Party. Tudeh Party. This is the name of a party, a communist party.
Do you want to stop highlighting your screen? So can you stop highlighting your screen so you come fully on the page?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Stop sharing.
Yeah, stop sharing so that we could see you fully, like on Google Meet. Oh, there we go. Fantastic. So yeah, go ahead. We're talking about communism in Iran at that time. Okay, so the communism in Iran at that time through the Tudeh Party. Okay, let's go with that.
Tudeh Party, yeah. Tudeh Party, among the other leftist party in Iran who were dominating in many social atmosphere. For example, in universities. So they have been I mean, crucial influence in young people. And the Shah of Iran was very much alert that this gonna be a very danger for his country. Remember that he was a good ally, a close ally to the United States, and how he can tolerate uh, a communist party coming from the Soviet Union, our neighbor in northern neighbor, to come and influence in this society which is pro-American, which is very much pro-American, the Shah of Iran. So how he could tolerate this? So he began to make a trick. He was thinking that if we let Muslim thinkers, Muslim philosophers, Muslim, I mean, uh, uh, um, um, clerics to influence on people of Iran. So this would work as a barrier, not the communist parties of Iran not to be able to influence on young people. For example, not back to remind you a figure. When Reza Shah, the first king of Pahlavi dynasty, left Iran, there were about 2,000 mosques in Iran. 2,000. And when the Shah of Iran, Muhammad Reza, his son, left Iran in 1979, there were some 50,000 mosques in Iran. It's mind-blowing, isn't it?
Mm.
It's mind-blowing that what happened here between the father and son, and Muhammad Reza has ruled for 37 years. 37 years, he built some 50,000 mosques in Iran. Why?
Mhm.
What was the reason?
Anti-communism.
The
They were
reason
for the
was communism. Yes, communism, because he was very much afraid and worried about the influence of the communism in Iran society, whereas Iran was a pro-American society. So he was thinking that if we let Muslims, scholars, Muslim thinkers, clerics, clergymen, mosque to be active, they prevent young generation to go to the Communist Party and become a problem for the society. This was in his mind. But he didn't know that what you are thinking about Islam is a neutral Islam, not a political Islam. He didn't know that Islam can turn to a political Islam. If you go to the mosque, you believe in the God, you do fasting, you do not commit sin, if you go to for Hajj pilgrimage, well, these are all good. What bad? This is your relation with your God. He was believing, even he himself was a good Muslim. He was believing in God. He was going to Hajj pilgrimage. He went to the Mashhad, holy Mashhad city of Iran to pay respect to the Imam Reza. He was considering himself the king of Shia state, but he didn't know that there is another aspect is is being imported in Iran, and that was the ideology of Qutbism through channel of the Nawab Safavi coming to Iran and influencing on the clerics and mosques of Iran to turn to a political identity, political institutes. And that is where all the problems started in Iran when the society of the Islam turned to be political. And this is the miserable story of Iran, started by the time that he let he didn't notice that he have to stop the ideology of Qutb to come into Iran.
So can I also now re re-explain my
Crazy.
understanding of what you said. And okay, so here, so the Pahlavi dynasty, which is the government in Iran before the Islamic Revolution, had only two kings, Reza Shah and Muhammad Reza Shah. Reza Shah the father, Muhammad Reza Shah the son. Reza Shah the father was extremely like he did so many anti-mullah, like he did so many things against the Islamic takeover of the mullahs. He was very, very aggressive against them. He even removed certain types of hijab in many places by force. And
I'll come back
but
to the army.
yeah, okay, so no worries. Muhammad Reza Shah, his son, he was he was really good in so many aspects when it comes to education, when it comes to building the country, when it comes to making political reforms and um, industrial reforms, in making the country go. Both father and son were really good kings that made Iran grew significantly in almost by every metric, like when it comes to economy, rights, and uh, healthcare, education, every single metric that you look at, these two fathers were they did it was a miracle how much they managed to change Iran from the Qajar dynasty, and how bad and poor and uh, fragile Iran was during the Qajar dynasty. When we went from the Qajar dynasty to the Pahlavi dynasty, the two Pahlavi kings, the two Pahlavi Shahs, managed to completely save Iran and turn it into a very powerful country in almost every sense. But until the Islamic Revolution happened in 1979. So this is the similarities between the father and the son, the Pahlavi kings. But one of the differences is the issue of Islam. Reza Shah, the father, was very aggressively, he was influenced by Ataturk. And because of his influence by Ataturk, he tried to put Islam in its place and to make sure that they don't get too much control. However, the son, Muhammad Reza Shah, he was a bit more religious than his father, and he also was, to be fair to Muhammad Reza Shah, he was very concerned, rightfully so, uh, regarding the threat of communism in his country, right? And because of that, he was a lot more sympathetic to Islam, the mosque building, Islamic learning centers, and all of that being built. And he gave them some privileges for them to be able to take advantage of it, because he also considered that a proper way. I mean, communism was atheistic, Islam was anti-atheistic, and he thought this would be. I need the threat of communism is so high that I need every help that I could get against them. Right. The problem is that the communism found a friend, managed to become allies with Islamic leaders. Okay, so Islam was supposed to be a pushback, a tool that you use as a force against communism. But what you're experiencing right now, a lot of people right now, when they see leftists uniting with Islamists, okay, this started back more than 50 years ago in Iran. The unity between the far left and Islamic leaders, that's where this has started. And eventually Muhammad Reza Shah referred to it as irtijai surkh siyah, which means this, he coined this term more than 40 years ago, which means the unholy unity between the red and black, red representing the communists and black representing the mullahs, right? But what made them come together, right? Because Islam is supposed to be anti-communism. How did the communists manage to become allies with the mullahs, with the Islamists? And this is, again, we have to go back to the Muslim Brotherhood ideology, right? Because what do they share? So the Muslim Brotherhood brought anti-imperialism, anti-colonialism, Westernism into the Islamic thought, the Islamic literature in Iran. And the communist focus, their enemy was also imperialism, colonialism, Westernism, right? So because the Islamism during Muhammad Reza Shah, because the Islamic thought in Iran was becoming more and more focused on this anti-imperialism narrative, uh, being imported from Egypt. So we have two countries where they're importing their ideologies into Iran. We have Egypt and we have the Soviet Union. And both of these ideologies that are coming into Iran, and Iran itself has Shia Islam, right? So both of these ideologies, what they share, and I don't know if this is by accident or there's something to it, but both of these ideologies, they have a global takeover mindset, an anti-imperialist, anti-Western mindset. So what happens? The force that was supposed to stand against communism all of a sudden finds that we are fighting the same enemy. So they become they merge with each other. Communism and Islam merge with each other because the focus on both of them, one coming from Soviet Union and the other one coming from Egypt, Muslim Brotherhood coming from Egypt, they both see the world as polar. The Soviet Union ideology sees as Western versus communism. The Muslim Brotherhood sees as Western versus Islam. They both see the enemy as the West, and they become friends with each other because they're both targeting against the same enemy. And that's why the Islamic Revolution happens, because two powerful forces of Islam and communism goes against the Pahlavi dynasty, and that's what makes the Islamic Revolution of 1979 successful. Is that fair what I just said?
Yeah, quite fair. But something I can add to that is that to Muhammad Reza Shah's perspective, Islam didn't have any aspect of expansionism. He didn't believe that Islam has a political Islam has aspect of the expansionism. If you are a normal neutral Muslim, so you're a Muslim, it's a belief between you and your God. That's all. So you don't think you are not looking for power, political power. So he wanted to expand as much as possible the idea of being a good Muslim, going to Hajj pilgrimage, and going for the practicing Islam, conducting practicing Islam daily. He didn't know in political Islam exactly the same idea of expansionism worldwidely expansionism, like communism is possible, is available in Islam as well. In political communism, what was communism? What communism was an ideology. Any ideology, no difference what an ideology, whatever ideology is expansionist and wants to capture all the world in his hands.
Well, not any.
This is any ideology. Any
Not
ideology.
any.
When Islam, based on the Qutbism, turned from a religion, turned from a theology to the ideology, then became like other ideology in the world, to be expansionist, to believing in a whole world to be in his hand, and to become one ummah. Here is the point: to become one ummah. This is what was absent for Shah. He didn't know about this fact. Because he was a good Muslim. Shah himself was a good Muslim. So he was thinking that as a Muslim, we are practicing Islam, and that's all. He didn't know that if Islam as a theology to turn to be an ideology, then it has an expansionist idea. So then they come to make him takfir. Then clergymen to come to make him an infidel. Then Nawab Safavi appears to consider Shah as an infidel. Then they come to assassinate Shah. Then they come to assassinate his prime ministers. Then they come to assassinate his minister. They come to assassinate Ahmad Kaslavi, and so on and so forth. He didn't know this flip side, of this coin. He didn't know this Philip Sykes-Picot. Because of that, as I've said, he let too many thousands of newly built mosques to appear in Iran after his father left Iran.
Okay, so we have to also mention, because when we talked about the unity on left and Islam, we mentioned Ali Shariati, and then we started talking about his book Ummah, the Imamat and Ummah, but we didn't mention how he's irrelevant to the unifying the left and the Ummah, because sharing the same enemy was not enough, right? Ali Shariati's books trying to bring the revolutionary fetish, the revolutionary fever of communism, and redefining it with Islamic symbolism and Islamic narratives was a key part of this unity, right? So Ali Shariati brought two concepts together twice. First, he brought the concept of Ummah and Imamate together, and he married them. But he was an leftist Islamist, right? He also married two other concepts with each other. He married the revolutionary fever of communism to the anti-imperialism, the fighting for the poor and the weak and the oppressed of communism, and he took the narratives from Shia Islam, and this is now a uniquely Shia image or symbolism. So the Muslim Brotherhood brought the underlying ideology to make it make it more political for Shias in Iran, but the imagery, the symbolism was still Sunni. Ali Shariati gave it the Shia flavor using Hossein, which is the third Imam of Shia Muslims, his struggle against Yazid, his martyrdom. He painted the communist revolutionary goals and dreams that they have, and he painted it with Hossein. He painted it with the story of Hossein in Shia Islam, and he basically created a Shia version of communism, I think. So, but by making Hossein the central figure representing the weak fighting against the strong, the poor fighting against the rich, the oppressed fighting against the oppressor, the colonies fighting against the imperialists. That all of that was all symbolized by Hossein, and every single other Shia Islamic struggle, like Shia Muslims struggling, whether it was their revolution against the Pahlavi, whether it was their fighting against Saddam, it was all brought back to that framework. Every single struggle that they have of a reflection of Hussein's struggle against Yazid and his fight. So would you agree that Ali Shariati was a key figure in merging the Shia Islam with communism, because so that he could make it look more Islamic than it actually was? Would that be a fair representation of what actually happened?
Yeah. But I can theorize what you said in what was called back then, I mean, some 50, 60 years ago, what was called liberation theology. Remember, the liberation theology. You know, liberation theology started in South in Mexique and some Southern American countries. I mean, they believed in Christianity, but you know, people were suppressed and under the pressure of the imperialism. So they wanted to fight against the ruling class. So they wanted to know how to fight. Some people believed into the communism and some believed into the other ideologies. Then church church became to say, I mean, some clergy men, some priests some Christian priests became to how to say theorize the Christianity not merely as a religion, as a belief between man and God, but as a liberation theology. This is called liberation theology. It started from Mexico and some other countries
Mexico.
from the American continent, and 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 then came to the Middle East area. Uh, but in the Middle East area, instead of saying Christianity can turn to be a liberation theology, they said Islam can turn to be a liberation theology. And here comes the role of the Hassan al-Banna and Sayyid Qutb and Qutbism. And from the Qutbism, as I have clarified, it came to Iran. So then they said the Shia can be a liberation theology. As you said, Imam Hussein, the third Imam in Shia, who became martyred, who was killed by bad guys. So uh, as he fought against the ruling system, Yazid. So nowadays he is a good sample. Is a good symbol for us. He's a good symbol. He's a good pattern. He's a role model for us to fight against the ruling system in Iran. But who is the Yazid of us or time today? He is Muhammad Reza Shah. And who has to fight them? We, as the Muslims, we have to fight. All this, the idea of liberation theology, no matter whether in Christianity or Sunni or Shia denomination, all became as a one single pattern that you misuse. You misuse your belief in God to be your source of power to fight, to struggle against the ruling system. So, in general, as you said, I mean, you brought a good example of Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein is not seen by a political Shia just only as a infallible Imam. No, he was a pattern. He was a role model. He was a symbol to fight against the ruling system. You see?
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. I'm going to now bring it to today and how that's relevant to everything we're doing today, right? So you mentioned, I don't know if you mentioned to us on the Persian show. I want to now explain to you with the story that I think you mentioned on our Persian show, explain to our audience why the Islamic Republic of Iran is doing everything that is doing. So that's the first step. And then I will go to explaining how this is all relevant to Israel. And then I want to go explain to you how this is all relevant to Europe. And then lastly, what is the solution to all of this? Okay. So let's bring it to today and how this is relevant to what the Islamic Republic of Iran does. So ever since I grew up in Iran, you grew up in Iran, you ask yourself a question that many of us never asked ourselves when we were in school in Iran, like when we were being taught this Islamic revolutionary ideology, right? All my childhood in school, we were always told in school that about the Islamic, that we are revolutionaries, that our ideology is an Islamic revolution. But you ask yourself a question that we didn't ask. The revolution was over. I was born after the revolution. The revolution was 1979. I was born in 1983. And in our school, we were always told about like the revolution, we are revolutionaries. This is a revolutionary ideology. The revolution lives on. And we never ask ourselves, like, why are we still revolutionary? You revolve. A revolution involves you revolving against something. You guys did revolve against the Pahlavi dynasty, and you won, and the revolution is over. How are we still revolutionaries? What the hell are we revolving against, given that the revolution was finished in 1979? But you ask yourself that question. and you came to a very interesting conclusion, especially did you guys have your team had a meeting with Khamenei, right? And he said something to you guys that also started all this path to discovering all of this and eventually to your book. Do you want to explain all of that to us? Because I think that will
Sure,
explain,
sure,
that will make everything
sure.
clear to people.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Why not? Actually, this is this was the core of a question was scratching my mind and was mind blowing for me, that never I could escape from this question, and that caused me to spend more than 6 years to write that book. I mean, the Ummah. The core idea goes back to this question, was scratching my mind, one mind blowing for me. You know, actually, it started from here, that Ali Khamenei had a meeting with a group of Iranian diplomats. Yearly in summertime, all the Iranian ambassadors and top diplomats, I mean, director generals, directors, I mean, minister, deputy minister, all of them gathered together to go to a meeting to Ali Khamenei. In one of his meetings, he touched something that never left me alone. He said that your diplomats, you go do your job as diplomacy, but I am a revolutionary person. This was the moment I was talking to myself, asking myself, what, he is a revolutionary person? So the revolution means to revolt against the uh, existing system. For example, in the Soviet Union was a revolution against Tsar system. Even in the science, even in the science, we say, for example, Darwin's theory was a revolution, isn't it? Or
Yes.
you say Galileo Galilei's theory uh, was a revolution. Why we consider Darwin's theory a revolution? Because he revolts, he goes for his uprising against the existing thought, existing paradigm. If Ali Khamenei was considered himself a revolutionary person before 1979, during the Shah, yes, he was a revolutionary because he was going to revolt against the Shah. But now he is the leader of Islamic Republic, and there is Islamic establishment. So he's going to revolt against who? So this question make me thinking that he is not going to revolt against himself. He's going to revolt against some other person, some other system. So I started to think, what is the other system? Then I came to uh, a very crucial outcome. A crucially important outcome. I understood that he is revolutionary against two things. Number one, he is a revolutionary and he's going to revolt against the system, political or worldwide system known as the system after Second World War, in which the United States is a superpower. You know, he is very much against anti-American. So he is against the United States. Okay, this is understandable for me. So he is revolutionary because he is going to revolt against the United States. But the story doesn't end here. The story continues. Let's imagine that the United States is not anymore superpower. Do you think his revolutionary duty is over? No, it's not over. Why? Because he believes in Ummah army. As I've said, in Ummah, you are going to create one single unity and one single entity, one single entity with no borders, with no boundaries, with no different 57 countries. You are all one. You have to be under one. So even if the United States is not anymore a superpower, his first duty is over. His second duty is not over. He considered for himself a second divine duty to revolt against Westphalia paradigm. What was the Westphalia paradigm? The Westphalia paradigm believes in nation states. So you create a state based on your nationality. For example, you say we are Turks, we create Turkey. Well, for example, you are say we are Arabs, we create Saudi Arabia. For example, you say we are Chinese, we create government like China. You say we are Persian, we create Iran as a state. But if you create your state based on nationality, then you have a territorial borders. You have some borders, right? If you say that between the Muslims there is no border, we are one ummah, we are one single entity. So all these borders should remove from the map, should wiped up. So here is his second duty as revolutionary person. Imagine, for his first duty, he is against the system formed and shaped after Second World War, in which the United States has the upper hand, is a supervisor. But in his second revolutionary duty, he is against a 500 years of Westphalia paradigm. So imagine how dangerous this idea is, Army. You are fighting a system which is working for 500 years since 1648, based on the Westphalia Agreement, which was a base to create states based according to the nation states. Here comes his, I was able to decode his thought. All my book is to decode his thought, to decode and to present. He is thinking the world not the way we think the world, we are considering the world. He is considering, he's viewing the world not the way we are viewing the world. For example, we are Iranians, we are not Turks, we are not Arabs, we are not Indians. But for him, you are not, Iran is not priority. Being an Iranian is not priority. Being a Muslim is priority. Remember, I remind you a very important sentence of Sayyid Qutb. Look what he said. Look what he said. He said, one can be a Muslim if he is a Muslim within the Ummah. I repeat again. One can be considered a Muslim if he is a Muslim, if he is a soldier within the Ummah. If you are not considering yourself as one single Ummah, you are not Muslim at all. So imagine how dangerous this idea is. Not only to fight against the United States, but also to fight Westphalia and to abolish and to destroy all the system is working for 500 years in our army. So imagine how illusional he is and how dangerous his illusional belief is.
Right. So
Was
I'm
it
going
clear
to
you?
Yes, so I'm going to try to see if I understood. I'm going to explain everything you said to see if I understood it correctly. Before that, let me just thank Carl for the super sticker. Thank you so much, Carl. And also, I want to thank Sal for saying such an informative stream. Thank you both. Well, thank you so much for your support. Anyway, so let me reframe everything you said and tell me if it all makes sense. So why are they still revolutionary? You're supposed to be a revolutionary when you don't have the state. Once you have the state, you should stop being a revolutionary. In fact, once you have the state, you're supposed to be now anti-revolution, because the people who want to do a revolution are the people who want to topple you. So you're supposed to go from being a revolutionary to being an anti-revolutionary. But these people who are ruling over Iran, they went from being revolutionary to continuing being revolutionary. How does that make any sense? Because, as I understand it, the revolution was not against the Pahlavi dynasty. The Pahlavi dynasty was one step. The revolution was against something much, much bigger than the Pahlavi dynasty. The Pahlavi dynasty was a puppet of that bigger thing that they were doing a revolution against, right? They just managed to take out one of the soldiers of one of the proxies of that greater thing that they're trying to do a revolution. So the revolution, they don't consider this to be the revolution of 1979. They consider this a revolution that started in 1979, and it will not end until they take down the world liberal order, which they call Western imperialism or Western I don't know, oppression or whatever, right? So they call, but what they call Western imperialism was they call this anti-Western attitude. We refer to that as this global liberal order that they're fighting against, and they consider. And by the way, this is a very unfair characterization of Mohammad Reza Shah, because Mohammad Reza Shah was not the puppet of Westerners. He was, if you look at his foreign policy, it was very much independent. He was sometimes working with them, but he's also fighting against them when they were being unreasonable. He was not a puppet in any way, but in their eyes, he was a puppet. So he represented them. They just managed to be successful in the first step. There are many more other steps to come, right? So the reason why you're saying that this is a very dangerous thing to believe in, and guys, it doesn't matter if they're ever successful. Even moving in that direction is very dangerous, even if they're successful somewhat, even if they're not successful completely. The fact that they're fighting against the world liberal order, this is the order that we're talking about, is what has made the world a much more peaceful, more prosperous, safer, less violent place. Like, I don't know if people understand the whole concept of a nation state that was introduced, this order, the international laws and regulations that we have, the standards that we have ever since World War II. We haven't ever experienced the world this much as peace. I know a lot of people find that ridiculous because they turn on the news and they see war and they think, like, what are you talking about, the world at peace? But again, they don't understand that historically, even with the level of wars that we have right now, we are the most peaceful, unimaginably more peaceful that we have ever been in the history of civilization. If you look at the past 50 years, you are enjoying an exception, like a very unique and very rare, like both historically very rare period of peace and stability that the rest of the 12,000 years of history of civilization has never experienced. So relatively to the people that came before you, this is the best of time to live in, both based on war and or stability, based on violence, based on access to healthcare, based on child mortality, based on poverty. The world has become so much of a better place, largely because of these modern international standards and agreements that we have. And this that you, every single one of you that is watching this today, all your life and your anything that you enjoy, any rights that you enjoy, any freedoms that you enjoy, any sense of security that you enjoy, any sense of prosperity or hope for the future that you enjoy, it is because of this international order that we have. And that is what these people are fighting against. So any success that they have is basically a success against your way of life, against your peace, against your stability, against your security, and against your prosperity. Would that be a fair representation of what you said?
I was barely able to follow you because it was kind of noisy and sometimes breaking up for me. But in general, what I understood from you is quite fair. Yes, we are on the same page together.
Okay, so now taking that to Israel today, is how I understand it to be relevant to Israel today. Okay, as you mentioned, the Balfour Declaration is one of those three humiliations, right? And the anti-Israeli agenda and the anti-Israeli narrative is also not the goal. Like destroying is just like destroying the Pahlavi dynasty was a step in a much larger plan. Destroying Israel is also a step in a much larger plan. To bring back the Islamic Ummah, to have an Islamic Ummah, you need to get rid of Israel, because Israel, first of all, they consider it to be a cancer in the middle of this what is supposed to be the Islamic Ummah, and also it's because it's a presence. It's basically they see Israel as just in the same way that they saw the Pahlavi dynasty as the puppet of the imperialist West. They consider Israel also to be a puppet of the imperialist West and a presence of the imperial West in the heart of what is supposed to be the Islamic Ummah. So the destruction of Israel is a necessary step towards the direction of eventually having an Islamic Ummah. So that's the one. There's two ways that this whole Islamic Ummah Israel becomes relevant in all of this. So that's the first reason. The second reason is the dilemma that the mullahs in Iran are having, because they want to be the rulers of the Ummah, this global Ummah, and they can't because they're Shia and most Muslims are Sunnis. So that was I explained the so I'm hearing a little bit echo. Let me wait for a second for it to go away. No, it went away. Testing. I hope it goes away now. I think it's gone. Okay. So the second way that this becomes relevant is the way that the Palestinian cause, the Arman and Palestinian, what they call the Palestinian cause, is actually them using Palestinians as a tool, them using the Palestinian suffering, the Palestinians' blood as a way to become the leaders of the Islamic world. So it's interesting because the Islamic Republic in Iran is not an Iranian government. It's an Islamic government that doesn't even care about the Iranian borders because it has an expansion policies. But their major success, which we refer to the Shia crescent, has been in places where Shia is, where the Muslims are mostly Shia. And if you look at what that looks like a map, it looks like a crescent. So it's like Iraq, like in Syria, in Yemen. They're trying to be successful in Bahrain. They're trying to be successful in the Shia parts of Saudi Arabia, which this is why Saudi Arabia is terrified, because that's exactly the oil-rich parts of Saudi Arabia. But those are the places that they have managed to have some reach. But they haven't been able to have the same reach in the Sunni Islamic world. And their methodology in trying to be relevant in the Sunni Islamic world is to do less of a focus on Shia narratives and do more of a focus on a pro-Palestinian, anti-Israeli narrative. Especially because the other Sunni Islamic countries, they are not Islamic, as you say, they are Sunni Muslim countries, which means that the Sunni Muslim countries even though they're Muslim majority countries, they're playing within the framework of the nation state, within the international order set by Western countries after World War II. They're playing within that. Like, they're not bringing in their own Islamic version of an Ummah. Saudi Arabia is not trying to do that. Egypt is not trying to do that. Pakistan is not trying to do that. Bangladesh is not trying to do that. The Islamic Republic of Iran is trying to do that. But these other Muslim countries are accepting playing within that framework, right? So because of that, a lot of Muslims with an expansion, a lot of Sunni Muslims with the idea of an Ummah, they don't consider their governments in their Sunni countries to be properly Islamic. they consider their governments, like many Muslims in Egypt, many people with this ideology in Egypt consider their government to be like an infidel government. Like many people, especially the Saudis, Muslims, religious Muslims around the world hate the Saudis because they don't consider them to be Islamic in any sense. They consider them to be Zionist or Western, right? So they have lost faith in their own leaders. However, they look at, and also because they are not doing anything to support Palestinians. In fact, they used to be angry with them because they didn't do anything to support Palestinians, but they also now are actually becoming closer and closer to Israel, which basically confirms what they have been saying for all these years in their mind, that these are traitors, that these are not even Islamic leaders, these are countries that are working with the West. It started after, like, when this is just the most recent chapter in this divorce between these Muslims and their government. But it started with, like we remember, it started with Osama bin Laden, when the Saudis allowed American military to come to Saudi Arabia to fight against Saddam. This is exactly when we saw a major drift between these people. Like, how are you working with these infidels? How are you letting their military to come on Islamic land? We're here in Afghanistan trying to get infidels out of Islamic land, but you back home in Saudi Arabia, you're letting the greatest devil into the holiest place. Like, that's Afghanistan and the Soviets. That's the West, which is the head of this of the satanic world, and that's Saudi Arabia, which is the land of the Prophet. So that was a blasphemy beyond all other blasphemies, which made the Saudis the enemy of these Islamists. But again, coming back to Iran and the Islamic Republic in Iran, see, I try to say the Islamic Republic in Iran, the Islamic Republic of Iran. So the Islamic Republic in Iran, they try to spread to the rest of the Islamic world by using the Palestinian suffering to make them see that it's the Islamic Republic that is properly supporting Palestinians, properly fighting against Israel. And this is why the Islamic Republic of Iran is so interested in making the Palestinian cause a global cause beyond its borders in the Islamic world and also in the Western world, because the Palestinian cause is the excuse that the Islamic Republic has to spread its revolution that it continues across the world. Would that be a fair explanation of how Israel and Palestine is relevant in all of the discussions that we have had so far?
Well, once again, I've been. I
You have
think
a
there is a
audio issue.
technical problem that you were breaking up for me, and it was sometimes also was noisy. So I was barely to continue. I mean, to follow you. However, in general, I got the idea. I mean, what we were talking about the role of the revolutionary duty of Khamenei for himself against the Israel and his anti-Israeli approach and attitude. So this was what you were talking about. If I may put it in my own word, I start with let me start with giving an example, a very um, um, uh, um, clear example. Army, that none of the Iranian sportmen, for example, none of Iranian wrestlers ever go to against to play or in wrestling against Israeli sportmen, or in other branches of sport. For example, never happened that Iranian football national team to go against the Israel or any branches of the sport. So and sometimes even they build a big lie saying that our wrestler, for example, Iranian wrestler, was sick and was not able to attend that event, which was all a big lie. So the question is why? If you say because there is a very bad term between Iran and Israel, so the Iranians, the Iranian listeners are not allowed to play against an Israeli sportman. This is not a good explanation. This is not a good justification. Why? Because there is no diplomatic ties between Iran and the United States. While Iranian wrestlers go to the United States and they play there, inside in the American territories. Or even it happened that American wrestlers came to Iran and they attended sport even in Iran. So the matter is not there is no diplomatic tie between Iran and Israel. Because of that, Iranians are not allowed. The fact is this: in Islamic in Khamenei's perspective, there is no state named as Israel.
Mhm.
There is no state exist named Israel. For example, if I want to come to you and I want to play with you as a chess, for example, you are representing your country, Iran, and I'm coming saying I am representing a country in March. So you say, who you are? Where are you coming from? So I am a sportsman, and which country you are? So I'm saying I'm coming from Moon. So he say, are you mad? So which country you're representing? Which country is there in the moon? It is exactly like what the Islamic establishment in Iran is considering the Israel. They say there is no country named Israel. If there is no country, then no sportman from Israel. So who I should go for wrestling or football or whatever? There is no one. So by giving this example, I want to clarify that how their attitude is toward Israel. Yes, as we explained it in this session, that they consider Balfour Declaration as a notorious cornerstone to establish a Jewish state in the heart of the Muslim territories as a cancer. And now, what is their duty? As I've said, a revolutionary leader was first a revolutionary against Pahlavi's dynasty, second as against the United States, third against the Westphalia paradigm, and fourth against the Israel. As far as you have these four duties for yourself, as you have categorized these the four duties for yourself, you remain revolutionary. First, to be against the Pahlavi dynasty. Second, against the United States as a superpower. Third, against the paradigm as Westphalia nation states paradigm. And fourth, against Israel. So still you are a revolutionary. That is why he considered himself as a
Yeah.
revolutionary leader. And this his duty is not over.
Mhm.
Is not over. And you truly touched an important point that he is using the matter of the conflict between the Palestinians and Israel as a pretext, as a pretext not to not to bring the rights of Palestinian to Palestinians. No, he is using the Palestinian issues as a leverage, as a tool to implement what is in his mind. And what is in his mind, we explained it, to create one single unity and entity under the Ummah. As far as he wants to create that Ummah with no border, of course, when he is going to remove the border between, for example, Iran and Iraq and Jordan, borders between Jordan and Lebanon, and Jordan and Israel. So, of course, you have to remove and wipe up the Israel from the map. Of course, you have to. If he's going to remove the borders and boundaries between the states, for sure he has to go for removing cancer and wipe it up from the map of the world. You see, here is the point. So, in fact, you truly touched an important, crucial matter, a crucial point, that the matter of Palestine is a pretext in his hands. And because of that, as I explained to you, the reason behind not going for wrestling with an Israeli sportman is not because there is no diplomatic ties between Iran and Israel. No, because they go and they go to United States, and from the United States, sportsmen come to Iran. The reason for not going for wrestling, for example, with an Israeli is because they don't believe that Israel exists.
Right.
You know, they don't believe that a country named State of Israel exists at all.
Got it.
So,
So let me move on to because I want to make sure that we finish this soon. I just want to mention how this relates to Europe and North America, right? So when it comes to fighting against these world powers, the center of these world powers are in North America and in Western Europe. However, unlike the good old days, they don't have the military force to be able to fight with these world powers. Are just too powerful, right? You don't have the military force enough to be able to go challenge them in a very significant way. So for now, the strategy is to use three tactics, right? One is to basically use the freedom of speech and the freedom of religion that these countries have to establish religious centers and religious institutions to make that a base of your operation when it comes to turning it into a focus more on the ideological battle rather than the military battle. The second method, so there's three methods. The second method is use the fact that these countries are becoming more and more populated by Muslims. So the organic part is that the immigration and the higher birth rate in these countries by Muslim is changing the demographics of these countries. That part is not planned. That part is mostly organic. But the part that is planned is to take advantage of this shift in the demographics to get these Muslims to become more involved in the politics of these countries and change the politics of these countries, right? So the part that you make you get these people to vote, but you also make these people to participate in protest. You make these people to become activists and become politicians themselves. That is the planned part that is going to basically try to corrupt this whole system from within. That's the second way to do it. The third way is to basically reach to non-Muslims. So these first two ways was to use the Muslim population of these European and North American countries. But the third way is to reach out to the non-Muslims and specifically leftists, non-Muslims of this country, especially using the Palestinian cause. So without the Palestinian cause, they usually try to touch on the anti-imperialist, anti-Western narratives, make these people hate their own countries and those kind of ideologies. But whenever the main and the most effective way is to use the Palestinian suffering, and this is why these people need the Palestinian suffering. So this is why this is so dangerous to Palestinians themselves, because they're not interested in actually solving the suffering of Palestinians, because it's such an important tool for them that it needs to always be there. And that's why Palestinians, we have to cry for the Palestinians, because the people who are supporting them are actually the people who are very much interested in making sure that their suffering continues. And unfortunately, most Palestinians don't know that advocates are actually very much invested in their suffering continuing. So yeah, so the last one is using the Palestinian cause and the suffering of Palestinians. I know you're having audio issues with me, but the people in the live chat say my audio is good. Based on whatever you could hear, do you think what I said was fair? Before we move to the last part, which is the
Yes,
solution.
was fair as far as I could follow you. Was fair, but I can add, bring something additional to what you said. It was 2 days ago that Khamenei, in one of his public speech, has supported the attack on October 7th. Immediately after his speech, Mahmoud Abbas of Palestinian leader took stand, and he said the Khamenei's stand, believing that October 7th attack was fair and good, is against the right of the Palestinian. Why? Simply because Mahmoud Abbas is approaching very rightly to the matter of the existence of Israel. Mahmoud Abbas' official position and stand is that a state named the State of Israel exists, uh, but in the in the territories before 1967 and after 1967, whatever is captured has gone under the occupation, and we want our territories back. So he never denies the existence of the Israel. Absolutely never, never, ever he denies the existence of Israel. While Ali Khamenei, who is not a Palestinian, he is from Iran, he is denying the existence of the Israel. And once we hear from Mahmoud Abbas that he, as the leader of the Palestinians, is against Ali Khamenei, we understand that how dangerous his thought is for against the right of the Palestinians. So, if I was following you correctly regarding the rights of, Palestinian and the conflict still ongoing between the two sides, I was adding this, bringing this further elaboration to tell that for Khamenei, no country named Israel exists.
Right.
But for Palestinians, at least for the Mahmoud Abbas and his governing cabinet, no, Israel exists. But the
he's not very
border of the
popular.
Israel,
But
who
he's
is not
not popular
popular?
among Palestinians. So that's one of the reasons why a lot of
No, as
Palestinians
an
hate him.
official. No, I know as an official. No, I said as an official Palestinian. Whether it is popular or not popular, he is recognized as the man who goes, for example, to the United Nations and present speeches there. I mean, for example, Ismail Haniyeh has no right to go to the United Nations. It is Mahmoud Abbas, whether popular or popular. Ali Khamenei, is Ali Khamenei popular in Iran? Of course not. But he occupies an official position. So I'm talking about an official position of a person who is leading that a Palestinian cabinet. He is saying that Ali Khamenei's stand again, believing in the rightness of the 7th October attack, is against the rights of the Palestinians.
Right.
Was it clear?
So yes, that puts everything together. But so let's move to the final part, which is the solution. And like I don't know if you will agree with me on this, but actually, before I read the solution, let me read the two of the super chats. Dajjal Chan is saying more streams like this, please, more scholars. Okay, well, thank you for enjoying that we have a scholar here today with us, and thank you for your support. And Enric is saying thank you for clarifying the essential ideas and actions to achieve in the Islamic Revolution. Well, thank you so much for supporting our channel. All right, so let's get to the last part, which is actually, I think, the most important part, which is how to, what's the solution and how to fight this, right? So my my evaluation of everything you're saying is that the key force, the most, because we have a lot of this ideology that is fighting against the West, fighting against the liberal order. It has many people backing it. We have the Muslim Brotherhood backing it. We have the Wahhabis backing it. We have Al Qaeda and ISIS backing it. But the main sponsor of the people who are pushing for this, the main military and financial and ideological force that right now in this that we're living, that is behind all of this. I mean, we could see that Erdogan in Turkey is also pushing for a little bit of this, but it's mostly the Islamic Republic in Iran. Wherever you see anybody having any success with any of this expansionist policy, you can see, if you look deeply, you can see the tentacles of the Islamic regime behind it. And that's why I think that you could play the defense part from your own country and try to make sure that you educate people and you inform them and you protect your borders and you fight the ideological battle and play the defensive game. But I think the most effective way is to also go on an offensive against the Islamic Republic. And by offensive, I don't mean like a military offensive. I mean by touching and highlighting and supporting and focusing the world's attention on the greatest weakness of the Islamic Republic of Iran. And the greatest weakness of the Islamic Republic of Iran are the people living in Iran and the secular revolution that is now taking place against the Islamic Republic. I think because everything else that you want to tackle, these are going to be the arms of an octopus. But you have to go for the head, and the head is in Tehran, and the head is the Islamic Republic, and the main enemies of the Islamic Republic are the people in Iran, and they're fighting against this regime. And if you want to fight the main force behind this Islamic takeover of the world, you need to focus on the people of Iran, because that's your ally against the main force behind all of this, the struggle. Would you? But also beyond that, you could educate people about what's happening. You could inform them. You could do that by either sharing this video or sharing your book. And again, I want to remind everyone that Hossein Alizadeh's book is available for free. You could actually download the PDF for free, and I'm constantly posting the link to it in the live chat. And there's also the link to your website, the link to your social media, and the link to your book is also in the description. So you guys could go read this book, or if you could watch this video, you could share this video, or if you prefer a book version of it, you could go read the book. Yeah, that's the book there. You can see, if you click on the link, it will take you to this website, and there's a download link right there. And by the way, thank you for making this book available for free, because I think it's such an important book that people need to. This is basically being aware of what the hell is happening is our main defense mechanism. So thank you for making such an important book free and available in in this important time. But do you agree with my recommendations for solutions on how to tackle all of this?
Would you once again to rephrase your statement? Actually, I was very barely could follow you again. Very, very briefly rephrase it again.
Briefly, in one sentence, the best way to fight against this is to support the people in Iran and support their secular revolution against the Islamic Republic. That's one of the best way to fight against.
Absolutely, absolutely right. I mean, I always use this description, Armin. I always use this description saying that Iran today is pregnant. Is pregnant to deliver a baby. And that delivering that baby is what we have seen not once, not twice, not third time. We have seen several times. Let me just touch some very important social movements took place in Iran. back in um, uh, uh, 78, Iranian calendar 78. I mean, some 25 years later, we had we have student movement. Yeah, we have Iranian movement. According to Iranian calendar, 1378, Iranian student movement. Uh, کوی دانشجو what is called in
Yeah.
English, I mean, student
House.
dormitory, no,
Oh.
student dormitory movement, student
Mhm.
dormitory movement. Then 10 years later, in 2009, we had the massive Green movement. You remember that the Green movement struck the Iranian society for almost 88 months. I mean, remember, 8 months people were in the street. The people you said, you rightly touched, that they are the engine for bringing any changes in Iranian society for future, that baby. So first was the student dormitory movement. Second was the Green movement, 2009. Then we had the fuel fuel uprising, some 8 years ago, some 6 years ago. You remember that a quite massive, huge, I mean, landscape movement took all around Iran, under the protest against the increasing the price of the
Yes.
gasoline in
Yes, sir.
Iran. Gasoline, yes. And then some 4 years ago, because of the shortage of water, shortage of water, some less massive movement took in Isfahan province and Khuzestan province of
So
Iran.
yeah,
And
so let's just summarize
yeah,
this as protest, because I want to make sure we
yeah,
get to the point of the yeah.
yes. And lastly, the Mahsa movement.
Yes,
So,
yes.
but considering all these movements took place and took shape in Iran, we see that a pregnant woman that's needed to, I mean,
So
when the delivery comes close, so the lady feels kind of the, what is called in English,
so
um,
yeah,
um, uh,
yeah, I know
yeah,
this is
yeah,
like
okay, anyway, yeah,
this is a like Persian poetry, which doesn't might not translate as well to in English, but basically what you're saying, this what you're saying is that this is a hardship before something great that comes. That's what you're saying. You're using metaphors of pregnancy to try to say
yeah,
this is the
metaphors, yeah.
hardship. This is the price. These hardship is the price that you have to pay for eventually something to good that comes out of it, right?
Absolutely right. Last but not least, what I wanna summarize in nutshell, I want to make I ensure I mean I make sure I am pretty confident that Iran today is not anymore Iran in 1979. People at that time were pro Islamic attitude. But if today, no, people keep their belief as Muslim, can even some they lost their belief in Islam. But even if he is a Muslim, he wants to
Right.
be a Muslim to keep his belief between himself and the God, and that's all. That's all in Iran today. So they will bring changes, and Iran is a very young society, so more than. And let me highlight a very important figure for you, Armin. The year the revolution, the victory happened for revolution in Iran, in 1979. The whole population of Iran was 35 million. 35 million. Okay. Today, Iran's population is almost 90 million. That means almost some 55 million more people are born after the revolution. Okay, half of them, half of them are women. So we have some a big number of the women who outnumbered. I mean, the generation, the 55 million people today were born after the revolution, they are outnumbered. They outnumber the whole population back in 1979. So there is a lot of things changes happen in Iran, in Iran's society, in the number of the population born, in the approach and attitude people towards the belief, whether whether even losing their belief in Islam or keeping Islam as their belief, but between themselves and the God. And third, because of the very, deterioration of the economic situation in Iran, which really it's a matter in any country. Yeah, and you see, for example, a teacher's income, salary is monthly is some, for example, some $300 per month. It's almost nothing. Whereas, for example, in Saudi Arabia, a teacher's salary goes to $2,000 a month. So for too many reasons, I touched some important ones. Because of the movements took place in Iran, because of the changing in attitude of Iranians towards the political Islam, because of the deterioration of economic situation, because of the bad relation with the neighboring countries, and because of too many other factors that I'm not going to
And
open up
also
all of them
because of
here. I believe, I
anti-Islamic.
believe, I believe that to that metaphor as you has used, Iran is quite a pregnant woman today.
Okay. Again, I know English speaking people that metaphor might not seem. It sounds a lot better in Persian. These poetic metaphors. I just wanted to. All right, but again, I want to make sure that we close the show before we hit the 4 hour mark, so that if it goes above 4 hours, I don't think that many people will click on it. So I just want to make sure that we end the show now. But again, guys, I encourage you to like the stream so more people see it. I encourage you to send this stream to as many people as possible. This is we explain, like, thank you so much for explaining this to us. I think that whole entire framework was made clear in this show. I think this is a must watch for people that want to understand what the hell is going on when it comes to the spread of Islam around the world. And oh yeah, that's your website. Yeah, I have the link to your website and all your social media in the description as well, so people, if they want to go watch it. And I need you guys to leave a comment after the show is over. Leaving a comment helps the algorithm. I see so many people are watching us on Twitter. Around 500 people are watching us on Twitter. So please make sure you come to YouTube and subscribe to us on Atheist Republic on YouTube as well, so that our YouTube channel grows. And yeah, anything do you want to mention your website? Like, what is this that you're showing us? But let's make sure that we finish all this before we hit the 4 hour mark. So what are you showing us?
Well, just I'm
Your
showing you that
website.
my English, my English part
Website.
of my website, yes,
Yes.
because it comes in Persian, Arabic, and English, three languages.
Great.
And in the
I have this.
English section, yes, yeah. So this is also in the left side here. Is my another book I have written it some 20 years ago. It's in Farsi and Arabic only. It's about the relation between Iran and Egypt. Iran and Egypt. Iran and Egypt, because I have been Iranian diplomat to Egypt for 3 years. Well, I mean, some 22 years ago. So this is the book I have written after I get back to Iran, and this book is published by Iranian Foreign Ministry, where I could in my mission to Egypt was the moment I could understand what horrific um, Qutbism is, because I was
Right.
living there and I was
You were living
writing
there.
this book. I touched it. I touched it. That how horrific it is, and it is in this book in Persian and Arabic. So this is all about my books. Of course, I have some 500 articles as well, in Persian, Arabic, or English. So you can find it here in my website,
Yep.
diplomathoseinalizadeh.com.
Fantastic. Okay, yeah. Yeah, the link is in the description, so people could go find it there. Anyways, so let's end the show here. I'm just going to close the stream. Thank you, everyone, and thank you so much again to you for being here and explaining. I took 4 hours of your time, and you were very patient with us, so I really appreciate that. So I hope, I hope we could continue working with each other, and so that we could learn from you and your future projects as well, because I think your work is such an important thing at this time. Yeah.
Of course, as for me also, I have to extend my gratitude to you, Armin, for the second time inviting me to your channel. And last but not least, one important thing I want your audience to pay attention. I want that all of them, when they go through my book, the Ummah, please contact me, give me your feedback. What is good, what is bad in this book? Give me your critics about the book, because still I'm working on this idea. This book is very much covering the idea of Ummah in Sunni Islam, not Shia Islam. Because of that, it must be a twin book. One of the twin is born 1 month ago. This book, the Ummah from the Sunni perspective, but the Shia perspective, I'm going to write it another book. Said there will be twins. So please give me your feedback, about whatever you find good or bad in this book. Thank you very much, and thank you again, Armin, for inviting me to your wonderful channel.
Thank you, and thank you everyone in the live chat, especially those people who like the stream. Shame on everybody who didn't like the stream. Shame on you. Please like the stream. It helps a lot. Thank you. Anyways, bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.